Folks, welcome back to the B Stream for the CCL Week 4, day number 2. My name is Seymour, stepping in for the series alongside Mick. We're here to close out the stream and bring you Kennesaw State University versus Georgia Southern. Mick, this is going to be an exciting one. I am hyped to get these two head-to-heads going, and it's going to be a great series.
Buddy, you think you're hyped? We're talking about two teams from my home state right now lining up, looking to see who's going to go ahead and get ahead in terms of the Southeast Pool C division right now. I mean, if we're talking hype, I sit there time in, time out. I hate the two letters GA because it usually means gentleman's agreement, and we're probably going to be getting rid of snipers. But tonight, it means Georgia, baby, and that's the lineup we got in front of us.
It is, in fact. There's a lot of history between these two teams, especially when you're looking at the Eagles, Titans inside the CCL, and honestly looking to keep it that way. But look at the head-to-head. Look at the experience that we've seen so far in the 2022 year. And honestly, GSU, they're flawless. I mean, it says all right there. I mean, you look at Kennesaw State 4-2. Well, Georgia Southern 6-0, and they haven't even dropped a map.
Yeah, I mean, that's just going to be the likes of Georgia State, or Georgia Southern, excuse me. I mean, knowing this squad, knowing what they've done in these past couple previous years, I mean, they are an outstanding group. Time in, time out. Go look at them last season. It's going to be darn near the same exact thing what you're looking at. I mean, they're impressive across the board performance, time in, time out. That is their bottom line, and that's all they're going to give you is their best performance. So anything above that, you're asking for a little bit too much, and you may not come out the battle unscathed or even then surviving it by the end of it.
Well, we've talked about them enough, Mick. Let's bring them in here, your home team. Let's talk about them. It is going to be the Kennesaw State Owls, and representing them, Shank, Este, Snake, and Trauma, a quad squad of gods right now, looking to make moves in the CCL, and they have done so. Now, going up against a Titan like Georgia Southern, this is a squad you got to watch out for.
Yeah, it most definitely is. I mean, KSU's had themselves a pretty good run so far, I want to say, within the season. They're already sitting at 4-2, so, I mean, they're not negative. They're looking pretty good. They're not looking too shabby. But thing is, whenever you finally go ahead against the likes of Georgia Southern, every single game up to this stage has been somewhat of a warm-up. This is where you really start to see whether those skills, whether these scrims, or whether these games have actually been a testament to come into a bigger picture. And even then, we can already see that Shank and Trauma are returning players from last year on their black squad. So that's going to be somewhat of a rally for them. But even though we've already touched on KSU, we got to move over to the other side. We sat there, hyped them up so much now. We got to discuss the players that are on the squad here.
Your white team, Georgia Southern Eagles, Teston, Chappas, Kailea, and T. I mean, this squad of 4, we've seen a lot inside the CCL, and they are names you don't want to overlook, especially when they haven't even dropped a map yet in the 2022 season. So talk to me a little bit about this squad. What are we looking at here?
Well, you want to go ahead and keep your eye on Susie Q, who was previously known as T in the last season, and Teston, who's going to also be another returning player for that Georgia squad. And, I mean, the way they've gone ahead and looked absolutely outstanding, not only the previous season, I mean, these results I feel like are going to be at the lead of that. When you see that Teston being the captain last season, now once again having that return as a captain, I'm expecting a very strong head on the shoulders of these Georgia Southern players. And that alone, you got to kind of cut off the head of that snake. Even then, you're going to see the rest of the squad wriggle around with those nerves for a little while longer. So it's going to be a really, really tough time here for the likes of KSU if they really want to step things up and find themselves a win tonight.
Well, we set up these teams. We set up the rosters. Let's set up the series now. The best of 5. It's a long one inside of Call of Duty, and these maps are ready to go. Let's take a look at this best of 5, Mick, and let's look where this battle is going to take place at. You look at where we're starting, Berlin. And it's a double dose of Berlin, in fact. Both Hardpoint and Search and Destroy to open up this game. We move for the Control, where we're looking at Tuscan. If it gets pushed the distance, where it very might well be with these two squads, you got Gavitu, Hardpoint, and Bokaj to close out this series. How are you feeling about this best of 5?
I'm feeling really good so far. I mean, of course, as an opener, Berlin, a double Berlin at that. I love the map. I love the way it plays. I kind of like the pacing with how large it is. I kind of give some space for teams to figure out what they need to do before going into the next gunfight without getting all the pressure of these opposing teams pushing them for spawns, pushing them just time in, time out, making sure they just can't react. I mean, Berlin gives you that space, that breathing room you need to go ahead and take a moment, get some meditation, and figure out what's going right, what's going wrong, and double down on what you really need to find yourself a success here. So even then, speaking of doubling down, we're going to go right back to that for Search and Destroy. And these are the guaranteed maps. So we obviously have to discuss them. And Search and Destroy being a much slower pace of game once again, relying on those assault rifles, being able to have those sites be so far off from each other that you can compose a plan before really painting that picture. So as everything's looking so far, it all comes down to whether or not we really get to that stage, and Tuscan becomes that much more relevant at that stage, because knowing if this team really finds a 2-0 at this stage, Tuscan's going to be more of a start of a comeback, and theoretically then really just a closure for one side that could dominate this series.
Let's take a step back, Mick, and talk about these two squads when you look at this
All
series.
right.
I mean, this best of 5, I mean, it covers a lot of depth inside of
definitely does.
Vanguard. Do you think that it favors one of these two squads?
Honestly, I'm liking the looks of it for KSU. I mean, that's what we're really hoping for. We see them sitting at 4-2, so we want to go ahead and see them at least get themselves a map or two. Looking at the flawless case of Georgia Southern right now, I think that will make things interesting and at least elongate the series a little more. But I mean, looking at Berlin, KSU has the potential to be a very, very smart squad rather than just going ahead and winning mechanically and when it comes around to those gunfights. So I want to see them to have that space, to really manipulate that. I think it all comes down to their discretion of whether or not they can make the use of the space given to them instead of just going ahead and saying, look, we got to rush in. And S&D, I feel like, is going to be their spot for that.
Definitely is going to have to be that case. When you look across from Georgia Southern, I mean, it speaks wonders when you look at their head-to-head. And the fact that they're flawless in general as a squad, it's going to be hard to go up against this Georgia Southern Eagles squad, and Berlin is where we're going to be starting this off. Now, we talked about Berlin as a map inside Hardpoint. It's a lot more systematic. It's a lot more fundamental than your kind of brawly bocage in a Hardpoint sense. And you're looking at really your flex players to take over in this case, that they are going to have to be locking down these long gunfights. So when you get into the hills, who's going to take out that submachine gun when they need to? Who's going to get up close and personal for these squads? It's going to be important who plays these roles.
And most definitely it is, and it comes down to whether or not you can find those opening picks and whether those assault rifles can step up. And here it is. We already get our eye on one. We can see Trauma getting for a lineup, looking for an initial play, but instead we see Georgia Southern able to go ahead and strike first, find a double, and hold down the side as well.
Suzy Q shutting down Shank. Should shut down this attack, but look at KSU. The Owls on the answer. Two go the other way, in for the break. It's Snake. It's 3 down now. And the contention is going to be Kylea winning a big one-on-one, keeping Georgia Southern inside this hill, but laying prone. Este strikes, breaks the hill finally for the Owls. And you look at the minimap, you look at where the Eagles are spawning. They're just going to hightail it over to this rotation. Choppa's looking for the gunfight. Snake is caught, and that is a big win.
Yeah, most definitely is. You already see the rotations coming through. You see for these two teams really just looking to contest as much as they can. And, I want to say the colors may be a little bit switched there. So we do see KSU able to go and hold down a little bit of time there, get themselves back into this game, pick up the scrap time as well. But is Georgia Southern on the rotations? They're looking for the get-go on this next site, looking to set themselves up and looking pretty darn good at it as well, to grab a couple frags on top of that, really create that space for them, create an alignment here on the map. It all comes down to whether or not they can capitalize on that, hold down their angles, and really get themselves a pretty good hold.
Well, the setup is hard to break, but Owls make it look easy. 3 down immediately to break from the front. 39 seconds to play for off the respawn. You can see that Eagles looking to collapse from all angles. Choppas turns his back to Trauma, goes back in for seconds. He's going to win that from the top rope. Snake is going to drop as well. So Eagles break back in. They're going to hop on for some time. And the respawns from the Owls, they're going to be in the train station. Choppa's going for the beatdown. He wins it out. That should be the dagger to give him the scrap time.
It most definitely could be. In the way that Georgia Southern's aligned right now, you mentioned the train station. That's a pretty big hop and skip to you making your way back on the side. But even then, regardless of the scenario that they're set when it comes around to these spawns, it seems like they're just that much quicker to answering it. Getting right back on site, holding a little bit more time, making sure this deficit is a little bit too much out of their comfort zone. But only sitting at 3 points right now. Each team looking for a pretty good run so far. So I'm just looking to see which, after this P3, whether the spawns go ahead and come out to disadvantage one of these teams, or whether or not we can see the trades come off in enough to inadvantageous for one of these squads. And even then, we got to sit there and look at the follow-up for P4. But even then, we got to get there first and see whether or not Georgia Southern can hold this down even longer.
Clean 4 down to start this one. Suzy Q on screen. You remember last year when Zuma was tipping him. He is a deadly player to be watching out for. Into the hill. Snake in the contention for the last 25 seconds. As Owls looking to break from the front, they are here, and they are ready to lock things down. Trauma, Snake, they turn up at the feed. It's all yellow so far. Choppa's to split the difference, but the break comes through nonetheless. Trauma all the way top third, 4 in a row. One more would give that glide bomb, and one more would give him that extra arsenal to just push this farther, but a big kill from Suzy Q to shut it down.
Even then, I mean, KSU having an absolutely outstanding performance right now. Able to go ahead and keep themselves relevant in this game, time in, time out, getting themselves a pretty good amount of scrap time. I wouldn't even call it scraps at that point. I mean, sure, Owls, they go ahead and look for scraps themselves, but KSU asking for a little bit more, getting themselves some more time, getting the entirety of a rear end of a site, time in and time out, just being consistent in that favor. But, I mean, train station, this is now where we get to P4, where things get a little bit hectic. When you see the spawns able to be right on top of the site, so Georgia Southern already holding that out, it's going to be a much stronger case for KSU to be made here if they really go ahead and make a break.
SN, big one-on-one, 3 down for the Owls. Feeling a trauma, just waiting for the reinforcements up top and waiting for the time to be right. Georgia Southern now, it's a 40-point lead. 18 seconds on the entire point time that Owls really don't want to let go the other way. Snake flies, takes down Kailea. It's a big win now to get them back in for this scraps. But if you look at the minimap, the battle is taking place elsewhere. They've completely flipped this map on its head if you're the Eagles, and they are taking control of what could be the 5th rotation. So you look at the minimap, though, and the kills come through for the Owls. They don't allow that setup to happen, and they actually rotate very well.
Yeah, great setup for them to make sure to have an answer at hand, and even then you can already see the way they're going ahead and set themselves up, getting across the maps, going ahead and allocating some space, getting these players in their correct positions to really get themselves set up for some kind of a counter. But even then, it doesn't seem like it strikes quickly enough, because there you go, right there on the edge is going to be S looking for that kill, but only finding one, while the rest of his team is going to be swiped out. So this is going to be a big problem for him, knowing that Georgia Southern is holding down a lot of time here. They're going to go ahead and have a lot of time to find themselves into the setup to hold the rest of this out. And even then, with 25 seconds left in the rotation to P1, it's not that big of a transition. So honestly, Georgia Southern looking like they're going to go ahead and run away with the game to some extent this stage. We got to see it bite back.
Eagles boxing out the Owls right now. Again, scrap time is going to be on the boards, and really, Owls, if you are looking to pull this back, it needs to be in the rotation. You can't lose out on these battles. You need to turn this into initial time, and you need to lock it down. In the second set of rotations, often, this office is most likely a money hill. They have a good setup here. You look at Snake overextending, trying to cut off these players in the rotation, but I mean, the Eagles, they found their way in. In fact, they're finding the kills as well. Kailea in for the contention. 2 go down, in for the break. Choppas doubles down and, in fact, snaps onto Snake as well. Last player here is going to be Shank, trying to keep their life alive inside this office hill as the respawns come up. Georgia Southern knock them down, and a big break to open up this office hill.
Yeah, you mentioned KSU finding themselves some kills, but even then, you got a problem. If Choppas is still alive, he's going to find a little bit more. Able to possibly find a 3K or a 4K to make a complete wipe and a complete joke out of the likes of KSU. So doing a great job there to make sure to really bide that time. Go ahead and make sure to set that example. But as things go ahead and go into a translation, finding yourself in that P2, Georgia Southern showing no signs of slowing down. Already getting on the rotation, finding the kills to follow through with it. You do find a little bit of a hiccup there, but even then, you have the rest of the squad still picking up those scraps, making sure to just make that lead that much larger. Now still get a 90-point deficit for KSU. They got to make sure to get themselves in this game extremely quickly to even have a chance of really making themselves a wrap up in here.
You can see why this team is flawless, Mick. It's systematic to a point where it's almost robotic, the amount of auto we see from this team. Eagles now playing for the break again. KSU have the initial time inside mail room. Shanks trying to finesse his life around the staircase, but Suzuki hunts him down. The break's going to be in now for the Eagles to start soaking this time up inside the mail room, but Owls keeping the pressure on. They do fight back. Este and Trauma knocked them down to get back into it. Still a fight on the inside for this time. Shanks going to get in for this 27 seconds. They need to find a few more kills before it is locked down, and it's just not going to happen. Eagles, they keep the pressure on, and they keep their lead in the very big, I guess, 2 times the amount of the Owls right now.
Yeah, and that's a big problem for the Owls. I mean, you can already see them looking for some scraps, able to go ahead and pick up whatever they can, not being put into that 100-point club, so that's bragging rights in itself, looking at Georgia Southern's record so far, setting almost every single team into a 100-point club threshold so far. So for the Owls to really get themselves into that conversation is enough bragging rights on its own, but even then, things are still looking hard for them. As you can see, Georgia Southern just doubling down, once again, finding almost that double-point threshold, and with 50 seconds remaining on this side alone, I think they can definitely hit it, but with the contestation coming through, some kills to come out for the side of KSU. They're looking for some time, they're looking for some space, and they find it, surprisingly enough, but can they capitalize on it? Can they find the extra 37 here, get the rotations, and really make this game that much more of a conversation to be had?
An 80-point difference. 31 still in this hill. It's time that you would love. If you're the Owls, Kailea, window shopping, 3 go down, in for the contention, and a break is going to be there with Suzy Q locking down the last 2. It's going to be 20 seconds. That Eagles are looking to pick up. You need flawless hardpoint right now from KSU if you want to upset this Berlin right now. But Eagles, they don't want to let that happen. Look at this early rotation. They're keeping the pressure from point to point. And Trauma last alive all the way deep inside what could be the sniper's nest. And he's just not able to die. So they are going to hold this one off for the Eagles so far. Kylie is still alive in the back line, and these streaks are going to be huge. Glide Bomb's going to drop from Choppas, and this is where these streaks are looking to snowball this map.
Okay, and there's another one coming out as well for Kyle. So a lot of glide bombs coming out here for Georgia Southern. Finally investing these kill streaks and at the point when it matters most, saying, look, train yard's extremely hard to break. It's not that big of a problem for us against the opponent that we're facing right now, but even then that could be an issue. When you see Drama and Snake able to find one respectively, Shank coming now into the equation, killing one as well, picking up all that rear time. Georgia Southern can't close on the side anymore. This is where I expected them to go ahead and end the game out, but even then, that alone, KSU stalling even longer, making this more of a case for themselves. They just have to break P5, and they have to do it instantaneously and perfectly because Georgia Southern's going for no scraps. They're going for no just spare time whatsoever. They want to get the beginning of this. They want to close it out right here, right now, and make sure to make this series go as quickly as possible.
You want it to be clean, but the setup's going to be here. Testin peeks out. Essay with the shots, but I love that from Testin. Backs up, playing the life. You see the kill feed is all white so far for the Eagles. As Choppa's going to shut down Shanks. Closest one is going to be player number 3, Essay, trying to make a play for the hill. Kylie is going to shut them down now. 18 seconds left, and it is going to be Berlin in the books. The way the Eagles keeping up with their flawless map count so far. Only 10 seconds remaining, and who's going to touch you? Look at the minimap, and really, nobody here from KSU to get in this. It's got to be now, and it has to be fast. Este's going in for the connection. 3 seconds remaining. He's going to drop on the front line. Shake's turn now, and he's going to fall. Testin looking to put the nail in the coffin. Trauma says no. Trauma says, let's keep this ball going, and he's going to get KSU back in this.
You can already see the mentality on this man already, just saying, look, where do we go ahead and move from here? I got to make sure to stay close enough just in case they hop back on side, and even then, the retaliation isn't quick enough. You already get yourself back on, and Georgia Southern finds themselves that necessary 3 to close out this map. So a very, what I could say, theoretically, become a close matchup with the way the KSU was making these answers. It just wasn't fast enough to really react to Georgia Southern's aggression. The lead they go ahead and create it for themselves earlier into the game, but even then, it's all in the back of a couple of these players right now. I mean, look at Susie Q, look at Choppas, and look at Kyle, all getting over 20 in this matchup alone, or at least on this map. So a great start for them, a great way to go ahead and get that momentum rolling and possibly get the spirits high as well.
I mean, it's a fantastic start for the Eagles. They're just keeping up with that flawless map count so far, pushing the record even farther, Mick. And honestly, it's what you expect from a Titan like this in the CCL. They did it last year. They looked good last year, and they're doing it again now in the 2022 season. And you're looking at KSU, a strong team looking to prove themselves in the series. And yeah, the back half looked good, but the front half, we just saw too much damage for them to bounce back from in the long run. I mean, Eagles, they just had to withstand the attacks in the later end of it, and they put it away. Simple as that. So Berlin hardpoint, I mean, it looked good at a time for KSU, but just Georgia Southern, they just look like another beast out there.
I mean, that's the only be expected out of Georgia Southern. We got to think about the school we're talking about, who had themselves a massive run in playoffs last year, almost getting to that stage where they were within arm's reach of winning it all. So, I mean, they're not to be joked around with. They are not going to be a squad that you can really find yourself getting too much from. And every time you get into a fight with them, you're not going to come out unscathed. That has to be a standard you set for yourself. That has to be an expectation going into a matchup like this. And even then, KSU's already sat there and had that example set on them, saying, look, okay, you got a little bit more on us. We sat there. We didn't let you get into that 100-point club. We're being a little bit forgiving this time. KSU has to run with that because they look pretty good for Berlin. And even then, with S&D being the next map, I'm excited to see what they can definitely do with it.
I'm excited, but let's take a look at that Berlin, at the stats that we saw from the teams, because it was systematic from the Eagles. You look at them, I mean, you called them out yourself, Suzy Q and Choppas having quite the game, but look at Kylea as well, always turning up inside the hill, finding those rotational battles for the team. And I mean, 18 non-traded kills for themselves, not too shabby, but a lot of people turning up for Georgia Southern. Testin had a quiet game, and even still, it wasn't even that quiet. 17 and 20. You look across the board at KSU, I mean, you had Trauma and Snake turning up, but just in the supporting cast of Estee and Shank, they just weren't able to battle like the rest of Georgia Southern were. So you call yourself, you have to bounce back in search and destroy. It's a double dose of Berlin, so we're heading right back into Berlin for this second map. Talk to me a little bit about it. When you look at the stats, when you look at game one, where do you need to see them bounce back at?
Well, quite honestly, we need to see them just bounce back generally. That's all it comes down to. I mean, we see the Owls, they go ahead, they get awake during the night. In Berlin, it's a nighttime map. So let's go ahead and see them wake up. Let's see them go ahead and be right in their element, inside their nature. And I think it all comes down to whether or not they can really just play the game slow and steadily. Because another thing the Owls are known for is their wisdom, their smarts, their intellect. I want to see that come out here. I want to see KSU go ahead and show the smarts their school represents. Go ahead, find themselves slowing the game down a little bit, not getting overzealous on the attacking side, and even if they do, finding a quick plant and showing an outstanding post plant. There's a lot of factors that have to add up here to really give themselves a couple rounds to work with, but I feel like once you go ahead and get Georgia Southern that sleeping stage, you're only going to get more aggressive to compensate for it. So I feel like Kennesaw definitely has their shot here.
Oh, 100%, folks. And if you don't know, introduced to Call of Duty recently has been the silent plant. So a lot of teams in the past, they would rely on holding around the bomb site, waiting to listen for that plant to come through so that they can attack and attack with that player advantage, being that the bomb planter will be a little bit occupied in that moment. Now that doesn't happen. You have to be a lot more proactive at controlling that map if you are on the defensive side early. And there's going to be a big battle now towards the Dogs, because if you get away with that plant early without any fight back from the defenders, that post plant, it's hard to break. And I mean, you look at the other side of the board over at the A site, inside that those offices, there's usually going to be a player there no matter what on the defensive side, and it's hard to break that in its own. It's not as safe, it's not as secure. So you got to watch out how the battles come through and how the adaptations are coming out from both of these squads going into a week now with that silent plan. It's definitely going to shake things up.
Yeah, it most definitely could. Even then, I mean, I feel like a lot of people are feeling right now that, oh, Mick, you're slacking on Georgia Southern. No, I love both these schools. I have a lot of pride for both of them. But, I mean, Georgia Southern, we're expecting them to look spectacular here. I mean, that's the only standard they set for themselves. Not even us just hyping them up. The way they play the game is so efficient, just so darn good that it just can't be neglected. And the way they go ahead and play themselves out in search and destroy, they've sat there and only given up about 2 rounds in the entirety of the season. I mean, they look really, really, really good in that search and destroy. But even then, KSU finally give them a wake-up moment and say, look, if you're going to get over 100 when it comes around to hard point, what can you do in S&D? Well, it all starts right here in round 1.
All starts here. It all starts now. Round number 1 is going to be underway, and look at the patience coming out from the attackers. They know that their time is right, and you got to watch it, but Este wants to be proactive right through the middle of the map. You can see him, Suzy Q, up top third. Are you going to be ready for this positioning of the defenders to be so aggressive? But look at this call to Tessin. And those things have to be a little bit sketchy. So he's going to double back. Maybe they missed something, and they did. Snake inside this. Now going to be hunted down. Tessin. No, Este strikes. And just like that, the aggressive positioning pays off.
Slow and steady wins the race. You can see that double cross there towards the top of that house on that 3rd floor, and it's really starting to sting Georgia Southern now. As you can see, so many players falling so quickly that it's only going to be one of them remaining now. So this is going to be a big problem for Kyle if he can't set things up, and almost immediately, only 25 seconds left on the clock. You got to make the wraparound. You got to pick up the bomb, which is in that cross again, and Snake's ready for it. Slithering through the glass, able to go ahead and bite when things are rough. You find that first round. KSU taking a lead here off the get-go.
And it's off that aggressive positioning that we saw at Este and Snake. They wait. Testin doubles back, tries to make it play, expecting like, hey, wait, we're missing something. And yeah, you were missing something. It is Este and it is Snake, and they pop out. They take you down. Big round to bounce back now for KSU. How do you answer back for the Eagles?
Well, right now for the Eagles, they're just going to play their game. They sit there. They're on the attacking side. They can decide where the fight wants to go to, so they're just going to go ahead and take advantage of that as much as they can. Move themselves directly to a site. Don't look through the middle of the map anymore. Sit there and find yourself getting comfy somewhere, and it looks like B is going to be the option they go for this time around, making a decision for that dock side. And Eagles, they love going ahead and prowling on the water side, even in Statesboro, being pretty close to the coast itself. So I'm sure they want to play into their element, go ahead and get that bomb down, and see what they can do here.
Suzy Q. Doing the same thing that we saw. This post plan 4-on-4. This is what I was talking about. Post plan here at B. It's hard to break. Who's going to strike first in this sense? Shots ringing out. Shank finds first blood on the inside of mailroom. Testin good follow. The collapse is coming out now from the Eagles to try to answer back, but the kill's not going their way. It is a 3v2. When the dust settles, and they have yet to get there. 17 seconds left. Choppas finds the player. Shake's still gonna snap on him. 3v1 Kailea. They know where he is able to find the shots onto Trauma. With 7 seconds left, there's just no time. Mick, Georgia Southern, they're gonna drop this round. KSU, 2 in a row.
Man, a great start for old KSU right now. Looking outstanding on the search and destroy. And even then, with the notes we took here before this matchup, I wanted to say that KSU, this was going to be their best shot besides the lights control. When you can go ahead, slow the game down, find a completely different pace. Georgia Southern is good at getting in your face. Time in, time out, time in, time out. And sometimes when you go ahead and find yourself getting into a pattern, when you get so aggressive, you sit there and have these tendencies that you don't really notice too much just because they become muscle memory at that point. But KSU doing their studies, making sure that everything has its own work, has its own role to play here. They're definitely making the most of it.
Looks like we're going to A this time. Will the Eagles follow through? Last time Tesson wanted to double back, but it looks like they're going to take the full wraparound. Choppas, middle of the map, you see that sniper hunting for first blood. Shay's going to back up. Choppas does find the first blood on the Trauma over at B, but A site, this is where the bomb is, and they are too deep to turn back now. Suzy Q spots the player on the inside, goes for the slide. ST gets dropped, and look at this collapse is flawless so far from the Eagles. 1v4 from Snake. He's in the flank, he's in behind. Actually spots Tesson, so that's going to be bombed down, but is it enough? There's a lot to do right now. 3 kills to shut this one down. Suzuki's gonna hop up that, and Snake again from side to side is gonna find it. Kailea gonna drop. Snake's turning this into a 1v1. Choppa's a pistol and a sniper, but Snakey's got one too. Over the shoulder, Choppa's gonna find it, and the 1v1 for the clutch. It goes the way of the Eagles.
A little bit of a scratchy round there, a little bit of a sketchy round, I'd say, but sometimes sketches perform masterpieces at the end of the day, and there you go. Georgia Southern finally getting on the board is what they needed right here. Going ahead, rallying around, saying, look, there is no way KSU is going to go ahead and make sure we don't get around. That cannot happen under any circumstances. We'll go ahead and forfeit at that point because that's just an utter embarrassment to the likes of us. So the way they're going to bounce back here is go ahead, have themselves just as good of a defense or even a better one than they did on offense. And, I mean, the way they go ahead and get these setups, you can already see 3 moving over towards B, getting a little bit bloody, get behind the back of S, but he didn't see him. Instead, going up the staircase, things are going to get roughy.
It is. As they try to get this straight, but the damage has been done. Even Steven. Skylay is going to find Estee looking the wrong way. Goes down. 40 seconds for the retake. Look at Snake again. In a place where you can spoil this whole play. Flat on its face. You see the Eagles wrapping around the backside. Snake will have full reign on this information to feed the Trauma. Trauma just needs to sit put, and Snake needs to keep the eyes peeled. There it is. Information going to be there. Shots down range for the MP40. Damage is in. Ooh, almost thought you were going to get that. 17 HP. Testing now. Inside the B site. Trauma still hiding. 13 seconds to make this happen. Time is going away. And if you're Eagles, you need to make a play. Tess is going to find it, but Kailea might have just put this down. Snake tries to back it up, and Kailea goes huge.
Kyle there with a massive double frag there to go ahead and back his team up, and that's what you need. You've got to go ahead, collaborate with your squad, look for those exchanges, look for those even trades, and even then, at that stage in the game, when it took you so long to answer the bomb, you can't have that time of leeway anymore. You have to make sure that stick goes through, that it sticks down, and it actually does the job, and what the name implies. So, a great way for Georgia Southern to go ahead and double down, say, look, all right, buddy, we gave y'all 2. That's still what we gave everybody else over the course of the season. Even then, some of them got less. So, once again, being a little bit forgiving here. And we're giving you some space to play and at least letting you see what the game's like against us. But this is where they step things up. They're starting to get this momentum. They're starting to feel themselves a little bit more. And once again, doubling down, now being on this round 5.
Kyle making plays. Suzy Q, big timing. Testing to back him up as well. But now they know, and sure, suddenly they flip the map and they flip the script. Looking now to take their lead. Snake on the flank. Can he shut this down like he almost did in the past round? Este is going to find the answer back. Brings it to a 3v2. Can he even it up? Este actually, both players on a flank. They're completely separated. Let's see if they can synergize on both fronts. But Kyle looks like he spotted him. Shuts down the flank from Este. And now it's all up to Snake again in a 1v3. And this time is not going to lock them down. They collapse. They take them out. And they take their lead.
They most definitely do, and they take it with a grain of salt, and I'm pretty sure they're okay with that. As long as they find themselves one, eventually they're going to get to that stage where they're expected to be in the favor now, stepping things up, saying, look, we found a format that worked on offense. We found one that worked on defense, and sure, both of them weren't all that good, but let's reinforce that. Let's try it again, see how it can do. And honestly, the only recipe they're cooking up right now is winning. They're looking extremely well. Georgia Southern finally getting on the board, and I mean, can we go ahead and really talk about who it's on the back of? Kyle freaking Ha right now, sitting at 10-2 on a 5 streak, having a glide bomb in hand. I don't know if the man can be stopped. We got to see if he can at least keep going for this one.
On 5 in a row, has that glide bomb. Oh, Shank, first blood this time. Traded it out. Testin keeps him even. Bomb goes down once more at B. Choppa's railing off shots with the sniper, but hasn't spot him out. Snake again on the flank. Time after time, getting into these spots. Choppa has no idea what's about to happen. Now numbers to the Owls for this. Trauma on the opposite front is going to take down Testin. Kyle, last one here, is going to get that strafing run, so at least making the best out of a bad situation, but they know exactly where he is. And with 20 seconds left, there's a lot to do right now. Both players separated. Snake's going to shut him down. We go back to an even front.
And once again, as you just mentioned, I mean, sure, you get the strafing runs, and things are looking pretty good right now. You give yourself a lot of streaks to be dealing with. One of them to go ahead and get yourself to a retake, or at least clear out a side if you want to find it towards that B, knowing that A is going to be kind of indoors. You don't want to opt to use that strafing run there. That'd be a bit of a ridiculous decision. But, I mean, going ahead, still having that glide bomb in hand to use for this round off the get-go, or at least in the next one. Whenever you want to find yourself a lead, or at least whenever you want to guarantee to double down on it, you can give yourself that intel. You can give your teams those calls and let them know, all right, well, here's where they are. Let's just play around it. Or you know what? If we're feeling a little bit frisky here, let's run right into their face and let's go grab some kills.
Drama. Oh, I thought he was about to burst through that door, give Testin a run for his money, but look at Snake. Look at Snake's positioning. I don't know if they're going to read this. No, they don't. Bomb goes down. Suzy Q topping. At least he gets the trade. Has to go all the way as high as he possibly can to get it, though.
And then slow and steady's looking like the name of the game now, because Georgia Southern, they have themselves a lead. They have a bomb down. They have it towards B as well, so they're really feeling in their element. They're going, know they have an advantage. They know they're set up pretty well here, but it's still only a 2v2. Things are looking a little bit sketchy, and Shank is now so close to the bomb that he can smell the gunpowder coming off of it. But he's going to also possibly go for that defuse if Suzy Q can't get an eye on things. But shooting that door is the right call. But now, you only got so much to be dishing out with, because you only have one player left looking for the kill, and there it is, a 1v1 now.
Choppa needs to play his life. You know time is on your hands. And you have the better positioning, but he just relocates, hops up top onto the balcony, and he gets the shots off, taking the Eagles back into their lead. Perfect positioning. You know Shank's only one place that he can go. Because if he took that fight around the backside warehouse, he would have no time to hit that defuse, and Choppa's reads him like a book.
Yeah, I mean, reading like a book is the name of the game here for Georgia Southern, knowing that every single person they've gone up against has probably been beat by somebody else that they've went up against. So, I mean, in terms of hierarchy right now, they're sitting at the top of the food pyramid, and I'm pretty sure they're happy about that, and they're going to be bringing that confidence at least in this one. Now knowing they got themselves a lead again, having themselves 4, being 1 off that match point, 2 away from closing out this map and getting themselves a second in the series. They're looking pretty good. They're possibly feeling pretty good as well, especially with all the streaks still in hand. None really invested in that last round. They're going to play it slow and steady and just see what their guns can work out first.
Yeah, it seems like that's been the name of the game right now for the Eagles post-plant. Retaking the site, it's going to be everything. But with these streaks, Kyle, bomb going down at A means you can't really use them. Shank's in a good position in watching the flank. Testin's going to read it. Nice play to open it up. That's going to be numbers now to the Eagles for the retake. Kyle doubles down on the opposite side. Now the collapse is working. Trauma hiding. Oh, he's going to spoil the fun here. Catches Testin from behind. It is going to bring things back to a 3v2. Sake as well evens us up. Kyle still slaying on out for the Eagles. He did not see Snake here. Wraps around the pillar. Shot's not there. Goes in for second. Suzy Q shots him down. And Kyle on the opposite end wins his gunfight. So Georgia Southern off some heroic plays. They're on map point.
Off to some heroic plays and off to the races it looks like as well. Getting themselves to that match point, getting themselves to that number 5. I mean, the setups right now for them are looking pretty good. They're just playing as a unit, able to just find the trades left and right to necessitize this win for them, and it's looking pretty darn good. They're not really feeling very lackluster. They already gave KSU a couple rounds here, so they're saying, all right, you found 3. You're now ahead of the races once again. When is KSU going to step up here and say, look, we are getting more than anybody else who has faced Georgia Southern so far has gotten as well. we can do this. When are we going to do it? And this is the only chance they have, at least in Search and Destroy, if they don't find themselves going to a map 5. But I want to see them come to light here, especially when you see all the street lights scattered across the map, and there it is, as with an opener.
Cuts off the bomb before he gets there, snaps back to Kyle.
Wow.
Take the heavy hitter off the board. No streaks for the Eagles to use, and Este may have single-handedly kept them alive in this. Choppa's leading to pull things back, makes it a 2v3. Take a look at player number... The player across the board, player number 6 in there. Shank is spotted.
Oh.
Wow, what a play from Choppa, is single-handedly pulling this back. But, Mick, look where the bomb is. They don't need to take these gunfights. Eagles, they need to make a play.
Yeah, they most definitely do. They got to get themselves across the map, and even then they got to necessitize a plan or at least create one in the meantime. And that's a lot to ask for when you're only sitting with one player remaining, and that's going to be Susie Q, which, I mean, obviously could come to light here with 30 seconds still on the clock, moving towards that bomb a little bit more so. But even then, possibly reading trauma there, but not able to find the kill. KSU step up, find themselves one more round after a very, very necessary first 2 frags out of trauma. And honestly, you can go ahead and give that man a little pat on the back for helping your team out, get themselves back in this game, and looking a little bit more relevant now.
We haven't really seen Georgia Southern hit those B sites very often, and it's because these SMGs are so aggressive at a KSU. And Este this time, dropping that bomb in such an important place for that round to go the way of the Owls, and finding a second onto Kyle, so you can't use those streaks. Now, let's see if they can do that again. If they get the streaks off the board, that would be huge.
Yeah, they most definitely could, and I feel like this may be the round where they want to invest those, because they haven't gone for it yet. They want to look for the information, but even then, when you go ahead and see Choppa's is going to fall already, that's a big problem. And even then, Tessa's falling right behind, so you finally figure out where everybody's at, but you've lost yourself 2 teammates, and you wake up to another one in front of your face. So there's the exchange for Georgia Southern, making it now a 2v3, but the bomb's going down, making their job a heck of a lot harder.
Susie, big plays out of your SMG. Bomb not getting planted, 56 seconds in the time crunch here from KSU. Este wins this out. Kyle now 1v2. No streaks on board. The strafing run was invested, and it finds nothing. So still has to use these guns. Slay on out. Este shots in behind. They know where Kyle is. 40 seconds left. Realistically, they can hightail this out of here. You don't need to take this gunfight. You could go to A, but it looks like they still want to dedicate to B. Shank is going to reinforce this, watching the cross, but again, Kyle relocates around the opposite end. Bomb gets planted. Time against Kyle to make this play on the inside. Spots Este in the back. 1v1 hops on in. 36 seconds now for Kyle to clutch up, but nope. We're headed to round 11. KSU push the distance.
Wow. KSU kicking into high gear right there just when I thought Kyle was going to start heating up. I mean, already getting themselves in the game, already finding the necessary frags to make it a doable scenario. I mean, sitting in that 1v1, but not checking the angle, not pre-firing it, not being prepared, or at least betting out some kind of a plant, knowing that next player is going to come up to check the bomb. So a lot of things there that could have kind of unfolded to another direction, but still, nonetheless, KSU now being here, being in this conversation, being in a tie game, and with 2 players rather than one really being at the head of it. Snake and Shank, a little bit of a letter differential there, but they definitely have the same vibe to them, putting in that work right now.
Look at this out of Georgia Southern, meeting fire with fire, and Tesson says, let's get dirty. It is going to take down Shank, opening up with first blood for the Eagles. Bomb rotating around for trauma, but Tesson is still very alive, and Snake hasn't spotted this player slipping the lines. Trauma finds the answer back. Susie Q going down is going to leave us in a 3v3. Good timing from Snake. Finds Tesson in behind. Numbers now to KSU, but look at the positioning out of the Eagles. Kyle is going to get down and dirty once more, but Trauma, the snap, burns Kyle in his tracks. Now Choppa's in a 1v3. 47 seconds left. This would be a magical round, but KSU with all the advantage in the setting.
And that's a big problem looking at how things are right now because, I mean, Georgia Southern not really used to losing scenarios. So right now, they're kind of shaking a little bit, figuring out what they can do. And Choppa's being all by its lonesome is going to have to be at the head of this. And it's just not going to come out. KSU, though, they find themselves a map on the likes of Georgia Southern.
They take down the undefeated Legends right now. They win in around 11. They make the comeback when the odds are stacked against them. And they're going to push us into a map number 4. Mick, I mean, I knew this was going to be a treat. I knew this was going to be a big one versus both of these squads. And there was something to prove for the Owls. And they just proved it.
They most definitely did, man. If I can tell you one thing about these Georgia boys, they know how to get dirty. And KSU not letting up by any means necessary, saying, look, we sat there, grabbed ourselves the first 2, getting a lead. where is this gone? Where is the momentum? Where is the spirits right now? We're lacking in all of that, knowing that we have ourselves some fraggers in our hands. So, I mean, KSU stepping up there, finding the right kills. Shank getting right in your face. Snake going ahead, playing like a snake he is, winning those right fights, and then also finding him from an angle you just don't expect every single time. And that's all to go ahead and give props to for the maps of Berlin. When you have so many space, when you have so many corners, we have so many weird angles you can come from. Georgia Southern just isn't able to expect every single one of them, knowing how open the map is. So a great way for KSU to make themselves relevant in this conversation now. Can they double down on control? Can they find another hard point? Can they find another S&D? We're not sure about that yet, but we still have to get to this next map first.
No, not sure about it at all, but you talk about a snake. I mean, a snake in the map. I mean,
yeah.
Where is he? He's behind you guys. Just look behind you all the time. Let's look at the stats. Let's look at what we got inside that map number 2, because it was a wild one, and it was a gauntlet. You talked about Kyle, 15-7, leading the charts for the whole game, but they didn't win it. 15 kills for the L inside of Berlin Search and Destroy. And you look at their opposition, KSU consistent across the board on all levels. 11-8 out of Snake. Big player on the board. Shank, even 9-9. Este, 7-8. Trauma, 7-7. Nobody really falling behind for this team. Everybody stepping up when they needed to.
Yeah, I don't like the way you threw that out right there, old Kyle, getting 15 for the L. You got to sit there and kind of be more like Kyle with 15 and an L. That's a little bit more of a confusing statement there, saying that you grab yourself that many kills. You pop those 2 kill streaks a little bit too late there, trying to go ahead in more of a desperation move than a move of proactivity, and it really goes ahead and puts things into perspective, saying, why not invest them earlier? Why not make sure to guarantee the intel earlier where your teammates can play off of it? Why not go ahead and find that strafing run in an earlier stage, knowing when they're probably going to move to B when you find that first frag? There's a lot of questions here for Georgia Southern, which I'm sure is probably going to wake them up for this next map to say, look, we can't be playing around anymore. We can't go ahead and wait on this, that, and the other, because they're going to be lurking in the darkness. They're waiting for us off the get-go, and they have more time to scheme something.
Well, folks, we're guaranteed a map 4 now after that Search and Destroy, and that's the exciting part for this whole series. We got Tuscan Control coming up next. Before that, a break. We'll see you on the flip side with some Control action here for the CCL stream. Mick, what a series we have so far. I mean, KSU versus Georgia Southern, we knew it was going to be a banger. Honestly, a rager with both of these teams trying to overlap each other right now in their division. But staying 1-1 after the Search and Destroy means that Tuscan is going to be a swing map between both of these squads. Talk to me a little bit about what we got so far.
I mean, we already have ourselves one heck of a series, seeing that Georgia Southern's dropped a map. So, I mean, that in itself is already something to kind of scratch your head a little bit with. And even then, after an outstanding performance there on that hard point, Berlin, sitting at a 250-153, KSU already stepping up, breaking the boundaries and finding more score than any other opponent has against Georgia Southern this season. Now stepping it up even more so, saying, we're not done yet. We're going to grab an entire map on top of it, and at around 11 on top of that. So they are just topping on toppings right now. They're like an ice cream you can get at the parlor, and you get every single topping you can, because they are feeling full of themselves right now, and they're feeling really good, I bet, on top of it. So for them to be going into Control Tuscan now, this is where things get once again a little bit rocky, knowing Georgia Southern's aggression, how well they play the game once you go ahead and have to be fast once again, knowing that clock's always counting against you. So I'm excited to see how they can answer.
Thanks, Mick. Now I want some ice cream. Like, come on. Like, it's late at night.
It's cold outside, man.
Games are rage. You know what? In Canada, we brave the cold. And I'm okay with some ice cream in the winter time. It might sound crazy, but I'm okay with it, ice cream inside the winter. But I'm also okay with Tuscan Control. And that's what we got right now. What I need to see at a KSU, if they want to take a respawn off of the Eagles, you need to see somebody go toe-to-toe with Kyle inside this. And you know that Suzy Q as well is going to be a hard player to kind of tee up to inside of a respawn game mode. So you got a dynamic duo right there. Kyle came online in the Search and Destroy. So who are you looking at on this KSU roster to go toe-to-toe with these two players?
Well, obviously, I'm going to be looking at Shank, and I'm going to be looking at Snake. These two players who can go ahead and have the tools, whether it's fangs or whether it's a knife, to go ahead and stab you in the back and make sure your job goes ahead and gets cut off a little bit too soon. And I mean, the way those two players played in terms of search and destroy, able to go ahead and connive a plan, able to find these little bit of an off angle to be working from and really find yourself to get out on top, and KSU manipulating that, saying, look, all right, our leaders are stepping up. Let's follow them. Let's do our job. Let's go ahead and make sure to win out around with that. And you could definitely see them doing that. But in control is going to be a heck of a lot harder. So as we go ahead and look at this map, the layout of Tuscan, I want to see a little bit of mid influence. I want to see these players looking to find these flanks possibly and lock down some spawns even, knowing this flow of control.
Here we go, Tuscan. KSU on the attack, as Say and Snake. We lock things down on the inside, and that's exactly what we do. Clean break for the Owls. You look at the mini-map, and you can see that through the middle of the map, Tessin is looking to get in for this contention. Caught down, finds Shank on the wraparound.
Okay.
Still in for this contention, and finally going to drop in. Only losing out on one player, is that his meaning that this A point, it is going, and it is going fast.
Yeah, and we kind of expect A to go ahead and be taken. I mean, Georgia Southern wants to go ahead and play this fragability game. Problem is, they're already down 4 lives in this. And sure, it's still in these early stages, but you're giving up a site unless you're Susie Q coming on a flank with a double kill, just setting the tone now, saying, look, you thought you had A, but no, it's still not closed out yet. We still have some time here on the board. We're still going to make sure that clock ticks a little bit further, knowing that it's now seeing a minute, and you have an entire tick of progress to really go ahead and find. So going ahead, rotating the B side is going to be the rest of this KSU squad. Going ahead, taking down Tessin as well, so that little bit of a roadblock is not a factor anymore. I want to see whether they can at least grab one tick to compensate for what they lost on A.
Cool, calm, and collected at the Susie Q. A site gets neutralized, and over to B we go. Time does get stopped for a second, but Kyle looking to disrupt on B. We're getting that progression. Look at Estee locking things down from behind. 4 in a row. Hasn't died just yet. 5 would give him strengths, but he's getting flanked once more. Hops into the hill. And here they come. Swing, and Trauma lines up too. Choppas gets spotted, still shutting down. That's a big kill right there to knock those shrieks out of the hands. You still got Snake in the back line, and Shank hopping on for the progression in B. And at the whole second of this, as you take these players down in B, they're just going to be spotting up in A. It's just how much damage can the Owls do right now? It's a whole lot of damage right now. 20 lives to 10, and they're locking down both points.
They most definitely are. You can see a lot of players already on A, or at least one to lock it down. That's all you need when you're that close to securing it. You move yourself in the middle of the map. You find yourself away onto B. You sit there and see if you can get some lock or some backup from your teammates, but it seems like they don't even need it. Snake in the front line, looking for some frags, able to find at least one, looking for the second, but Choppa's coming out on top. That's going to be so close for this B progress right now. KSU needs to go ahead and kick it into high gear. They got to go ahead and turn into a muscle car, speed their way onto the site, and see if they can grab those last couple seconds.
Susie again on the flank. They got no idea whatsoever. 1 to 2. Easy as pie. 4 lives remaining, though, for the Eagles, so they have no room for mistake in this first round. Well, this is all happening. Just look at this setup for Eagles. They don't want to push too far. They don't want to give up too much. As you see the Owls on the minimap rotating all the way around Church to try to flip things out. They know they have a win condition on both fronts. One more tick at B or kill 4 players. Kyle's going to find Estee. Snake now knocked him down to 3. 2 players remaining. Susie Q still in the command center. Hasn't rotated back. Might be having some issues right now, but it's all up to Choppas to really hold things down on the inside. As the collapse comes through from the Owls, they're finding the kills necessary, and Choppas last alive. He's going to drop, and the Eagles are going to lose out on the first offense. A big one coming out of that, but it does seem like we are having a little bit of issues on Susie Q's front. So the round goes through on the offense no matter what. KSU dial things from what seemed to be 10 to now 15. They open up with a huge offensive win, something you don't normally see in Control.
Yeah, I mean, especially then considering the two teams we're looking at KSU already winning an offense, which we don't see very good win ratios on for offense and in Control, especially on Tuscan of any map. So, I mean, that's a big problem to go ahead and set an entire storyline for this. Georgia Southern's now going to have to answer. I mean, whether or not problems or not, the way that things are really laid out and the way the rulings go, you have to carry on with the game. The show must go on. And honestly, if anybody's going to make the answer and not really be too scuffed up by that, it's going to be Georgia Southern. Let's be real here. They sit there, they get aggressive, they get in your face, and whether they win the maps or not and they win the rounds, they really don't care. They sit there, they can strike back even 10 times harder from what you've seen previously. And I think looking at that return they had in terms of that search and destroy, going ahead, bouncing back 5 entire rounds, they're going to say, look, not a big problem.
Well, as you get this lobby repopulated and Susie Q back into things, we can really take a look at kind of what we set up for the story.
Yeah.
For both ends. I mean, I asked you who's going to step up for KSU to go toe-to-toe with really 2 big players in Kyle and Susie Q. Well, we got them. All 4 players set up. all 4 players dial things up to the next level, and they really put Georgia Southern up against the ropes now. I mean, we hardly ever see offensive rounds get taken into effect, inside control in Vanguard in general. And the fact that you open up right away with the first one, that's really going to throw things through a loop here. You're looking at a swing map for this, and the Owls just got step number 1 dialed in.
Yeah, and even then to also look at a follow-up, and that's a great way to go ahead and follow through. And on top of what you got, I mean, we sit there talking about momentum time in and time out, saying, look, you go ahead and win a map, you look to double down, find whatever you can. Starting out on offense and then winning it as well, that's a great tempo. I mean, I don't know about you, but if I'm in those competitive shoes still, I'm saying, look, this is probably the best follow-up we could have had. Play defense and do whatever we can because you usually win those defensive rounds, but the way things were looking, regardless of the crash or not, they had themselves a pretty good standing in lives even before then. They were winning gunfights. They were getting the rotations. They were utilizing the middle of the map. Even when B wasn't completely open, they weren't going for a 1-hit, then a 2-hit. They were going for a split. They were finding themselves to get everywhere on the map and being an absolute nuisance for Georgia Southern at every turn.
Yeah, they're winning the lives. They're winning in the point. I have to say, that little stint they did over to B, a lot of times you see teammates do that or players do that to pull the players off from the defense and maybe spawn up back at the A site with a lot more control, but they lock things down. I mean, Snake, again, goes on a tear in the spawn, kind of pushing out and spawning out Georgia Southern, really locking down that B site. They get good progression, and by the time they die, I mean, you said it yourself, they only needed 1 player to lock down that A site, as they only needed 1 tick of progression. They get it done, they got a life lead, and they really dropped the Eagles into a blender and control something that they needed to do if they want to take down this series. And honestly, if you're looking at KSU, this is exactly what you needed to see out of the squad.
Of course, and I'm sure it's exactly what they wanted to see. It. Sure, we have standards set for them. We want to see a game, but they want to see a win. They want to. They don't have this kind of neutral ground like us as casters do, and some observers just looking for a good game overall. They want the win, and you can definitely see that determination right now out of them. KSU stepping up, saying, "Look, we're 4-2. If we take down a 6-0 team who made it all the way in such a long run in playoffs last year." That is outstanding. Even if it's 1 game, even if you lose the rest of the season after that, I mean, I could see that being as a trophy in itself. I'll send it to you myself, KSU, if you can pull this out. But, I mean, Georgia Southern, they got to find a way to really get back into this. Knowing that all these kind of hiccups that are happening now, they found themselves being a little bit lackluster in that search and destroy past that 7th round. Everything since then just hasn't really been to my standards. Instead, it's just been some same old, some regular setups that you're just kind of used to typically seeing. We haven't seen that dominant Georgia Southern threat that we are getting used to and know and love and want to go ahead and scream over.
Somebody better clip that and hold you accountable, Mick, for that trophy.
Hey, I gotta rep my Georgia boys. Even if Georgia Southern ones, I'll send them one. I love my state, baby.
You know what's even bigger about this? I mean, Kennesaw State, you're going up against the number 17 team right now in the CCL. Yeah. You win this series, you might as well punch your ticket into the power rankings.
Of course.
It's even more than just the standings right now for your division. I mean, this is a statement for the CCL out of the Owls that they're going to take this. They got round 1 on the offense, and now we're heading back into things. So you got to look at this. It looks like we're swapping. So Georgia Southern, can they bounce back here? It looks like this is going to be interesting. Going to be right off the bat. And look at the arrows. They know this. Kennesaw State are going to disengage and try to reinforce this as they are looking to trap Eagles in this setup.
They most definitely are, but how quickly can they do this? How quickly can they find that time, and how quickly can they find an answer? Because you already see Shank able to go ahead and be fallen, but, I mean, yes, they're towards the back. Able to go ahead and buy some time. Know that there's 2 more players in the back. You make the calls, but do you find the frags? No, but there's your teammate there for the follow-through. Georgia Southern stepping up, already finding some pretty good time here on B and looking to lock down these spots.
Anytime early is good time on B, but let's see if they can follow it through. Snake from the top ropes is going to work with Shank to try to set up for a pinch. Kyle's going to shut them down now. As they're working on the second tick, Este on the flank for the squad. Inside radio, Kyle in the corner. Slide comes through. Shank and Drama shut him down. Now second tick of progression is locked in, but here comes Este over the rails. Is going to get no Drama. Called it a little bit too early. Snake comes up and shuts him down. And it's 2 ticks over at B. Now off the respawns, Eagles are going to look to set up at A.
And I'm loving the even exchanges, at least in terms of kills right now. Everything looking pretty good so far, but Georgia Southern just being that much better when it comes around to being on the objective. Able to go ahead and find themselves some time every here and there, getting themselves a pretty good bit of progress now into A as well. So getting that split set up to where they say we find one tick, we find one tick, we find one tick, and we have plenty of time to do it. But maybe Snake able to go ahead and slither in a little bit, find some kill, or at least one now on the board. But you go ahead and find Kyle on the edge, and that's a big problem knowing that man that is.
19 to 18 in lives. Minute 47 on the board, and Georgia Southern only need one tick at B to even us up inside the control. You look at the minimap, you look at the control that KSU are going for. Este all the way on the lake flank is going to find Testin. Slows things down on the attack once more. And Chapas knows there is some occupation inside of this command center. Trauma peeks out. 3 down again for the Eagles. And look at player number 5. Look at Shank's positioning.
Yeah, you have an entire minute and a half now to work with, but how slowly can you use this? How well can you really manipulate this to conjure a plan to get yourselves onto the side? You only have one tick left, so don't rush it every single time. KSU is slaying you out. You're down 2 lives right now. You can't risk these last 3 resets for each one of your squad members to say, look, we can just do whatever we want. No, you can't. This is looking even worse and worse now. You find yourself down one more, but Tessin finally making an answer, getting that closer to sight, but finally getting shut down as well. So much on the line here for Georgia Southern. They got to step up, and they got to do it quickly.
And Shank, who's on the flank, puts the nail in the attack once more. Well, once it gets started, I mean, B-side, it's hard to attack. It's hard to take control of, and shaving off time ever so slowly, but surely, have been the Owls. 40 seconds now. 11 to 8. 1 tick needed still. Testing the shop as they find the opening. Let's see if they can kind of blow this open now. Get onto the site. Stop the clock in the back. Nate is cooked. Is it going to land? No, it's not. So now 2 players to hold things down. 27 seconds is where we're going to stop this. We're going to last take. Who's there to touch? Nobody.
Nobody.
Eagles, they stick it out, and nobody comes to the rescue for Kennesaw State. They pull the rug right out from under them. They tie us up.
They most definitely do, and that's what I expected out of Georgia Southern. Of course, it was looking a little bit rocky there towards the end because they just wanted to keep on putting that aggression. And sometimes, like I said earlier in Search and Destroy, there's some patterns that KSU is going to take notice of. They're going to manipulate that, and you have to switch something up eventually. And Georgia Southern finally slowing down, saying, look, if KSU is going to push up for our defaults, then let's go ahead and make sure they don't see us. Let's go ahead and throw some crazy curveballs here into the mix. But even then, KSU throwing one of their own, already being on A side. Getting clocked down is going to be Snake, not finding that flank that he wanted, and already grabbing some more time is going to be the rest of these players on a double stack as well to pretty quickly manner.
Back-to-back offenses. Look at this. I mean, Control's only been in for so long, and look, the adaptations are monumental. Inside Vanguard, right off the break, another clean one from the Owls. Work on the last tick at A, looking to put a quick minute onto the board again. Big kills from Eagles to bounce back. Pushing the lane now is Suzuki, right up front and personal. Shank's going to shut him down before he can really do some notable damage. Downrange Snake, nice shots onto Kyle. Opening up this A site now to look to put it in the books. That's exactly what they're going to do. A site captured. Add a minute to the clock, Mick.
2 minutes left, 25 to 23 in terms of these lives. It's going to be a toss-up right now whether or not KSU can really go ahead and make themselves a crazy comeback, some kind of crazy aim to come from. And there it is, a crazy kill from Snake to go and shut down Tessin. So Shank following up, making sure to run right through that church and find some respective kills with it. Honestly, looking outstanding so far to at least get some time on this B side, but you've got to get all 3 ticks, and that's going to be a much bigger problem when you see Choppas on your flank.
7 unanswered kills. Choppa's finally on the flank.
Oh!
A is going to find the kills needed. Coming in to save the day. 5 kills in a row is going to give him the glide bomb. Snake's still alive in the back line, and he's got 5 in a row for himself. So glide bomb on both fronts. And really, if you're the Owls, I mean, that glide bomb can snowball this for another attacking round. 1 minute and 32 seconds. You got rid of the player who was on the flank. Now Suzuki is going to pick up where they left off. Player number 2 as well, Tessin, inside the command center. He's going to find Trauma, so taking the kills right on the front line. And Owls, I mean, you know Snake's back here, but if your teammates keep on dying, Snake is really just wasting time.
Yeah. And even then, sure, he's doing something. He's making sure not waste any more lives, but he's definitely not trading those out. He's not finding those kills to buff things out, and he's not trapping the spawn as efficiently as he wants to. He's looking for a flank. He's looking for an opportunity to open up, and he looked for it there for a second, but couldn't exactly find it when you saw the kill come through out for the side of Georgia Southern. So with 17 to 14, with 56 seconds left, KSU's definitely going to be playing some kind of a desperation game coming here soon if they don't really step things up, find the right kills, and find themselves some time to back it up.
That's it again. In the corner, Peekaboo. Welcome to the party. We'll see you later. Quick 3 down from the Eagles once more. Now it's looking to fly. Choppa is going to find 4th in the opposite ends. I like this play from Tessin. Just going to tuck himself into the corner of these staircases. Try to burn some more clock off of this time bank. KSU now, 30 seconds left. 6 life deficit. This is looking like a strong defensive round at the moment for the Owls, or for the Eagles. They haven't let a single take on B, and look at that. They funnel on in the power positions. The Godheady from Chappas locking them down. 12 seconds left. I mean, do you even hit this? Do you even waste these lives and feed streaks to these players? Chappas on 9 in a row. This is absurd.
I mean, even then, you're not even worried about the streaks. You're also going to think about that last setup. If you find yourself in a tie game, a 2-2, it all comes down to whether or not you can see those sides flip to their advantage, because you want to make sure to have enough lives to play with towards the end to give yourself that defensive side of the field. But, I mean, the way that KSU fell a little bit short on that defensive round makes things look a little bit sketchy here with Georgia Southern turning it up, finding 2 in a row, making things look a little bit problematic.
Now 2-1 Eagles flip the script. They find a defensive win. Where they needed to answer back with an offensive win, they got it done. 1 round away from taking back their lead into the series. Full streaks on Chappas. Heading to the A side this time. They don't want B like they did last time, and this is the right call. I mean, you use those streaks to take down B. You just need to get the A side under control. Here comes the push from Owls, looking to open things up, but no, Suzy Q around the corner, finds the kills necessary, and it's flawless so far. Snake drops the glide bomb, but it's too little, too late.
Peekaboo goes Suzy Q, and finding a couple kills to back it up as well. So a little bit of time for the rest of the team to go ahead and say, look, we grabbed A, we grabbed some more time. Let's go ahead and get set up for B. Suzy Q being once again on that flank, on that little crazy roundabout to say, I'm going to get outside my comfort zone. I'm going to get away from my teammates because I know I can frag out, because we've definitely seen it so far. But the rest of the team looking for now that time. It will close things out on A. Nobody's going to contest over there. You're just going to see all on their lonesome is going to be Kyle just looking to play outside the game and play for that time and possibly get a flank once you lose that site. But as everything really goes ahead and pans out for itself, you can see Tessin there towards the middle of the map, able to find one, looking for a second, and there it isn't. Sorry to go ahead and tease you like that, but you still need your B side.
23 lives to 21, 2 minutes on the clock. And Eagles now looking to put Tessin in the history books. Tessin swings. Este looking to bait that nade on off. Tessin for the slide on in, gets the better of Este. Suzy Q drops the hammer. 4 go down. Now it's time to set up on this point. Shanks, can you spoil the fun? The shots are there. Is able to find one, slides on in. Chappas with the trade. Stopping the clock at 1 minute 39. Este on the flank. Finds Chappas. That should open things up now. More streaks come out. Doesn't find anything but slowing down the time. Still working on first take, so this attack is going to be everything out of the Owls, and they shut them down. Big bounce back from the Owls.
Still have themselves only 15 lives to be working with. Defending these sites is a little bit problematic, but you still have yourself at least all this time to be playing with. And even then, KSU, they know whenever the game slows down, they have themselves the advantage. But the problem is, in Search and Destroy, the game was handed to them to be slow. In the scenario like this, they have to slow it down themselves, and they have to stop the giant boulder that is Georgia Southern, who is looking to move on to this B side, able to find 2 respective frags, but there it is. Snake finding the double kill, making things look a heck of a lot more doable. So as everything really starts to pan out, only 55 seconds left now, Georgia Southern looking to just hit these same routes, time in and time out. I need to see something different. The glide bomb is exactly what I was looking for.
Another glide bomb. Where's the follow-up? It's Kyle, and he's going to lose a big one-on-one, and really that streak amounts to nothing. Life advantage still for the Eagles, so if you want to brawl this one out, you can.
You got to.
It's just Owls. I mean, if you want to see a round 5, you need to put your foot down soon, and you need to stop wasting these lives. 13-8, Este finds Suzy Q. You got church control at the moment, but here comes Eagles to hop onto the B side. Chappas and Kyle, they open up the map. 2 go down now. It's time to stop the clock at 20 seconds. 5 lives remaining for Georgia Southern. Only one respawn bank. Shank setting up the flank. Player number 7, Este. Can he get here in time? First tick looking to get locked down. A whole double the lives there. Trauma comes in. Finds a big kill. 1 tick is going to be locked on in, but Este on the flank. Finally going to strike. Chappas now forced off of this hill to take these gunfights. It gets wild, and he gets the beatdown, but kills come through, Mick. 11 seconds left.
And even then, you already see it still counting down. That's the biggest problem. You don't see any Georgia players on this site right now. They got to rush, and even then, I don't think they're close enough. They're all too scattered about, and we see KSU pulling at another one, making this go to a round 5. So a great answer for them, a great way to go and get themselves a defensive after Georgia Southern found one of their own, making this game look that much more even, baby. We got a series on our hands, and I'm loving every second of it.
Look, it doesn't need to be pretty. It wasn't pretty.
No,
you
it
just
wasn't.
need to get the job done. And KSU, they push us to a map 5 or round 5. Inside control. They got the offensive too, and we've seen that both teams, they have what it takes to get the offense done. Over to A we go. Player number 1, Suzy Q, looking to cut right down the middle as they finds him, but with the stun out, he's going to be caught lacking, and Suzy Q opens up that A site. Off respawn, Owls, they're going to overextend. Trauma leading the way, heading over to B.
Most definitely head over to B, and I think that's a really great move for him. Go ahead, do once again, find that split maneuver. Get some time here, get some time there, get some time everywhere, and go ahead and make your job that much easier once the game gets to that closing point. Keep Georgia Southern on their toes. Make sure you don't really have to sit there and sit on one side where they can fight you up front, because you're at a 1-life deficit, and if you go ahead and match up with Georgia Southern time in and time out, you're probably going to lose that fight in a one-on-one. So we can already see Trauma looking for one, but there you go. Doubling down, Shank on the flank. Great positioning here from KSU to turn things around.
Shank on the flank. I mean, there's a reason it rhymes.
Exactly,
So
right? And Snake on the flank.
Yeah, it happens all the time. I mean, it's only right. One take going to be locked down, not A. Suzy Q once again on the wraparound, finds Trauma. Estee doesn't know, but it doesn't matter if he knows or not. He's still got the shots on point. Snaps over to Choppas, and see you later, bud. A-side's getting locked in.
It most definitely is, and to go ahead and secure that first point, that's a lot more time for KSU to deal with, and I'm sure they're really happy for it. Knowing they're at a 3-life advantage right now, sitting pretty good, and the rest of the team really just all feeling themselves. Trauma, big at 14 and 16, but honestly, the life differential isn't big enough of a problem for you to really go ahead and beat yourself up about. But there it is. Something to brag about is that kill feed, though. KSU lighting it up yellow right now and to make it look really good for them. Locking in those spawns, making sure Georgia Southern can't really answer right now. Now at an A-life differential. KSU looking extremely well so far.
Yes, they are. You got to be careful. You have to be reserved if you want to walk away with this map of the Eagles. You've come so far from both teams. Who's going to walk out on top? 3 go down. Snake falls as well. Back to the respawn bank. Look at Suzy Q. On the flank once more, and it pays off. Shank has no idea the collapse is going to be out now for the Eagles, and what was once a big life advantage, now only 2.
Quick little melt there for Georgia Southern. I'm sure they're completely happy with that. But problem is, can you follow through, and can KSU find themselves onto a site? And this is where all the pressure comes down. You see a player on the flank once again, and KSU's had a big problem with this. Positioning towards that spawn and never making a move off of it. So with only 28 seconds left, you see 9 lives left for Georgia Southern. Make that 8 now. You get the exchange, so you're okay with that. But you got to move to that site. B does not have a single second of progress on it. Georgia Southern still has 6 lives left, and the way they go ahead and slay out in this game, you can't give them any leeway whatsoever when they have a glide bomb at hand.
Suzy drops the hammer. 14 seconds left. Hopping on is going to be Shank, and he's going to win a big gunfight onto Kyle. Tessin looking to burn these lives as they come off the respawn, but you have to take this player off the hill. KSU, they're going to keep this going. And honestly, this is huge time right now. Tessin wraps around top. Church, lives, no respawns for Georgia Southern. Snake wins it out on Tessin. 3 lives left. Shank dropping him to 2. 1 up top, 1 in the back. Suzy Q and Kyle, can they make it happen? They do so far. 2v3, no respawns. 5 seconds left, and look how far they are. You gotta run. You gotta touch it, but it's just not gonna have the chance. Eagles clutch up. They ice up, and they take the swing map.
You win the fight, too, there if you're KSU. You get yourself onto the site. You say, we got a live advantage. This is going to be the end of the game. But, I mean, you're a runner, but are you a track star? Sadly enough, you are not. You don't have the stamina. You can't get onto that site. So, Georgia Southern, once again, stepping up to make themselves relevant inside of this series. Going up now 2-1, winning out that control in a pretty, I would say, shaky manner nonetheless. But pulling it out is all that matters. Once again, you sat there and said it earlier. It may be dirty, it may be rough, but so long as you get it done, the job is done. And even then, this series isn't. You still have to win that map 3. KSU is still in this. They guaranteed themselves a map 4 earlier off that S&D. Maybe they could find themselves one more. Problem is, Hardpoint is now standing in their way.
Hardpoint is sitting in their way. And Georgia Southern, they just looked so good inside that Berlin. But if you look forward, you're not going to Berlin. You're going somewhere else this time, and that's going to be important. Let's look at the stats for that map. No, let's look at the maps for this as well. So we're going to look at the maps, not the stats for this series, as we get to look at Gavitu for this hard point. And it's going to be a big one. I mean, you talk about Berlin being so systematic and fundamental. When you go to Gavitu, this is where your flex players now get to go to the Automaton And you get to see that triple automaton setup to try to lock down the lanes.
Yeah, that's a big problem. And even then, I want to go ahead and say, buddy, I know Shank and Flank rhymes, Map and Stat does. I get it. It's like a nursery out here. There's a lot going on in terms of wordplay right now. But, I mean, if we're going to be talking about playing, Gavutu's going to be definitely a hard one for Georgia Southern. I feel like they're going to go ahead, have to step things up, really get themselves an automaton, because the way their SMGs are playing are just out freaking standing. And to go ahead and sacrifice that and to make sure you have to be that much more aggressive on a map that's so much more open to where these rotations are so much bigger and longer, there aren't nearly as many money hills. There's not as many just kind of definitive sites where you can just hold it down as easily as that, with everything being so open and up to these kill streaks. So, I mean, so long as Georgia Southern can hold those down, I don't think they should have themselves too much of a problem here. But the biggest problem is KSU. They are looking ticked now. They set themselves, got a really, really close roundup on that control, and I'm sure they don't want to go ahead and go down that easily.
I mean, you had such a good start to that control, Mick.
It was.
You win the
amazing.
offensive round, but then Georgia Southern, I mean, there's a reason why they're number 17 in the CCL.
Exactly.
There's a reason why they're a tough matchup to go up against. They bounce back right away. They get that offensive round, and honestly, they could have won that 3-1. They could have taken it before, but, I mean, both of these teams, neck and neck, they look like they should be side by side on those power rankings. The fact that this is so close in every sense of the way. The only time it wasn't close was that hard point. But you look at Gap 2 as a different story, and I don't expect it to be a 250 to 153. Again, I think that this is a better Kennesaw State than we saw in that map number 1. They're awake. They are warmed up, and this very well could go to that Bokar search.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I mentioned earlier and alluded to. Sure, we go ahead and don't go to a map that's based around the night, but as we get later into the night, that's when we're seeing KSU step up more and more and more, really coming to life here, and I'm really stoked to see it. I mean, you said it yourself. Why don't we see KSU and Georgia Southern by themselves, neck and neck on the power rankings as well? Well, because KSU is at 4-2 against a whole bunch of other teams. Where was this attitude the entire season? They are looking outstanding tonight, and I want to see a closure to really make a definitive case for themselves.
I want to see that as well. But if they want to make it happen, if they want to put themselves up there and prove that they belong side by side with the Eagles, they got to send it to a map 5 now. It has to go the distance. And Gavitu, it's where they're going to push it through, and we get a little bit of a look through this. I already highlighted that instead of like Bokaj, where you see the triple SMG, you are going to be looking at triple assault rifles into this map. You need to win those one-on-ones at range. And what I'm seeing out of this Kennesaw State team, I mean, their automaton players have been showing up. And I think that this is going to be important for the Owls. I think this is a map that favors them, a map that will really show their strengths. They just need to clutch up right now and send us all the way.
They most definitely do, and it all starts right here. You see P1 already open. You see everybody storming the beach of Normandy right now to see who can get on site first, and it looks like it's going to be a stalemate. No time on the clock whatsoever. 0-0. Who's going to have the first strike?
Suzuki hops out, and Shank finds 3. It's one way to open things up if you're the Owls, and now it's time to set up on these power positions. Nate gets cooked. Kyle eats it. 4 in a row now for Shank. Playing for those streaks early would be huge, especially on a map like Gavitu. It's a slide, but I think he passed right past the teammate. He does. Finally getting the go-ahead. Slides on out. 5 in a row. Glide bomb locked down. Can you get full streaks? Peeks on out. Testing gets caught sliding. It's 6 in a row for Shanks. An opening that you needed from your player, and now you got full streaks.
And I don't know about you, Chief, but I can hear the palm trees blowing in the wind right now. And if you can do that, that means there's not enough gunfire going on. It's a little bit too quiet and a little bit too slow, and KSU is going to step up in scenarios like that. Georgia Southern already being on the rotation, already looking for the second side, already looking for some time. You see the picks come out on the outside, looking for these kills towards P1, which I don't really need out of Georgia Southern right now. I need some time, baby. I need you to get onto that site and really fight for it. You can already see the positioning. Everybody's sitting on top. The automaton really just going ahead and being that flex, as you said earlier, putting in that work, finding these kills, going to be choppers with 1, but even then, you're grabbing time at the end of the day until you finally fall a little bit short and KSU's looking to strike. 30
seconds still to pick up in this hill. You see a big rotation battle from Este trying to flip this map out, but you don't want to. Straight to the other side. Este gets in. The brace could be through. Finds 2 as well with Suzuki up top. Trade still ringing out from either side, but you still have the favorite spawns if you're KSU. With that little stint from Este, you didn't get flipped out, so that's an important thing now. You can see the Owls, they don't want to give this up. They're going to be playing a little bit passive so that they have this rotation on lockdown.
And even them trying to figure out what was going on right there with the likes of Snake and Trauma, just whether or not why they didn't answer on that boat, or at least take a peek with the rest of their teammates looking for P3 so far. You can already see them on site, able to go ahead and keep this lead up to some extent. But when you see once again that Kyle is towards these spawns, how is that going to affect things? If you get slayed out, you're going to see you being on the disadvantaged side, and that's a big problem for KSU, but maybe not with Est already being on site, finding that kill, able to hold things down, saying this is my boat. I control it, I pilot it, and I'm going to find some more time on it as well.
I'm the captain now. Est on the inside, surrounded. 64-34, good shots on the choppers, but here comes the pinch inside. They take him down, and that is going to uproot the Eagles from the site. Testing an artillery, looking to put shots in Shanks, and Kyle's going to lock it down on the inside. Dagger's going to be in, and looks like they are going to lock down the scrap time now. They got to traverse through this map. They got to cross the beach if they want to get to P4, and it's going to be a tough one to break once more. First ones here are going to be the Owls.
They most definitely will. You can already see him being set up, but even then, I feel like this is a lot more troublesome than P3. You've already found KSU finding so much time off the get-go on that P3 that now P4, I feel, is even more of a money hill. You can go ahead, you can spawn on this side, and you can also hold it as well. So it's a little double whammy here. Everybody gets to be happy. Well, not everybody. Georgia Southern has to break onto site. When Kyle on the beach goes ahead and gets slayed out, that big fragger that we've seen step up time in and time out, being cut out of the game and having to run once again a country mile, it makes things a heck of a lot harder for him. So there it is, a single frag there to go ahead and push up a little bit more. But I mean, KSU holding this out outstandingly so far.
They flipped it though. Eagles spawning in the back. They can reinforce this hill again and again. Around the outside, Susie Q takes out Snake. 20 seconds now to pick up. If you're the Eagles, you're going to get the scrap time once more. You are going to close this distance as they creep closer and closer through the hills. Right into docks this time around. You can see the 50-yard line is going to be measured of Owl players. Is it going to be important? See if they can turn this into initial time and a lockdown. But Eagles, again and again, I mean, they have done a fantastic job at breaking these hills.
They most definitely have, but even then, it's always been a little bit too late. But even then, not late enough to go ahead and tighten up the gap a little bit. It all comes down to how much time you give KSU right here. And once again, as you mentioned, flipping out those spawns, able to go ahead and give KSU that time to go ahead and set up for this next site. How much is that setup really going to speak volume? How much is it really going to affect the course of this match? And already hitting that 100-point threshold, having a 30-second lead right now is going to be absolutely definitive for him so far. But even then, you need some more time. You got to at least buy that 30 seconds. Make sure you have the guaranteed majority of this site. And there it is. As it reaches 30, 29, they have it. So if a break comes through, they're not really too scuffed up.
Through the window, testing strikes. 2 going to be down now, 3 in a row for himself. Looking to turn this 3 spree into streaks. Wraps around the outside. Shots onto Shanks, but Shanks shuts him down. Big kill out of himself now. Break comes through from the Eagles, but the damage has been done from KSU. 120-86 after the first set. It's a good lead. It got a little bit dangerous throughout the hill 3 and 4, but keeping up this lead, now you're heading into the first 2 hills where KSU looked out of their mind.
Yeah, and even then, I mean, this is really where they excelled once again, and being on the same side as well. The way the spawns are going, I mean, they go ahead, they have the same exact setup. The thing is, they have a little bit more time to be ready for it. Same thing with Georgia Southern, already finding all the necessary kills, almost getting a full squad wipe, but then, even then, there's 1 player still remaining on the outside. You know what? Cancel that. That's going to be a full clear for Georgia Southern, able to go ahead and bide most of this time here, looking for a setup, looking to just go ahead and kill things out, and just play it slow and easy here as they rack up some more points and possibly get a lead if they can find every second left.
Lead change. Oh, no long lead change. KSU get the late minute break.
Hold up.
So they can keep it alive for now, but you look at Georgia Southern now with the favorite spawns for the next 2 hills. Trauma, ugly shots coming out. Not going to find the kill. Still contention on in. Does find the better of Tessin, but the trade's going to be through. 3 down now for the Owls. Make it 4. You find the break in the first wave of kills. You're only 10 points away from flipping this lead. Susie Q tries to make the wrap around to cut off the rotations here on the inside of the top deck. Kyle caught with the pistol. Nice play from Shanks to slide on out. Still a battle to try to get control of this second hill. Susie Q in for the possession around the corner. Gets the better of Snake, and that's the break you're looking for.
It most definitely is, and Georgia Southern to go ahead and finally get the beginning of a time of a hill is going to be a great setup for them. Problem is, can they hold it down? They hold it at least long enough to get themselves on the site, find a tie game, but when is the setup going to come through? When's the break going to come out for KSU? Because they've had to lead this entire time. They've been holding off the front end, playing that defense, and then eventually having a break somewhere. Now the shoes are flipped. They are saying we have to make a break, and how do we adjust to this? Well, you find some time, you find the scraps, which is great. You keep the lead once again, making things extremely more interesting, and the resets coming through, the rotations coming out. P3 is now going to be open here, and somebody needs to get to that boat.
Needs to get the boat. They need to get to it now. Big rotation battle from player number 8. Snake wins it. Trauma set up now. God spot for your automaton to be in there, and winning the fights on the inside has been your SMG players. This is huge for Owls now to turn this initial time to the beach. This is where things can really get out of hand with the setup that you're seeing. Trauma's set up now for victory. Finally broken from Test and 3 kills to the Eagles. Snake all alone on an island, but Este coming to the rescue. Can he win this fight? He does. Now he's going to be able to back up his teammate on the inside, but he's already dead. He's already gone. These are just hero kills right now for Este to neglect some time out of the hands of KSU. He is going to go down, so now KSU going to hop in for the last 30 seconds left. Shanks goes down, so nobody's going to break this. Now, Owls, they need to look at setting up for the rotation.
They most definitely do. I mean, even then, I feel like the Eagles have a little bit more to go ahead and look at this rotation. They need to go ahead and make sure to get themselves the lead because, I mean, they found the scraps here, but with only 3 players looking at this next site, KSU's got to make sure to have one heck of a bunker, one heck of a shutdown, and even then, you just don't see it, but there it is. Kills right there in the tower, a player holding out boat, Trauma being on that lonesome little sniper spot that just does so much work and does so much damage for everybody else on the field, and there you go. KSU finally get themselves back onto the site. P4 can't let us slip out this time because that really hurt you in that last one. But P5, though, is going to be a big differential of who hits 20 first, or 200, excuse me, if we can see Georgia Southern break again.
Trauma looking to wrap things around. Teston reads it. Contention's going to be in. Teston's working the back line now. Spawn's going to flip early, but you still have the spawn spawns for KSU. So it's not done just yet for the Owls. They're going to be able to reinforce this hill right away. Trauma's going to let loose the utility. In comes the Suns. Down go the Eagles. And in come the Owls now for the retake for the Seal. Suzy Q's still alive on the outside. Trauma still has some work to do, but Este comes to the rescue, shuts him down to the inside now for the last 19 seconds. It's the Owls looking to keep their lead going. But now in the rotation, this is something that we saw last time around. This is good time we saw to the Owls for the last hill, number 5, and Eagles are going to be there to set up this time, first time.
Yeah, and you can look at the spawns being swapped. You can already see Georgia Southern saying, look, that's a little bit too far of a run. Let's not even worry about it. Let's go ahead and set up for P5, and that's kind of a problem because, you know, no dive bombs coming out. Shake's going to go ahead and be at the head of it as well, but not exactly fine enough, but still finding at least 1 kill to get that player off the site. So you now know that you can have a break. Snake in the back, looking for the kills once again, being on that flank again, but it's not going to do as much work this time around. Sitting at 2-10, KSU needs to get on the site quickly, bide as much time, than just play for the front end every single time again when they have the numbers advantage.
Teston playing cutoff from the inside. He's going to find Snake 3 in a row. The respawn still in the back antenna here, so Teston has a lot to work on if he wants to flip this lead out for the Eagles. And that we're getting to work on right now. 200 to 210. These teams are neck and neck right now on Gabba 2. Teston looking to cut off these respawns once more. Suzy Q in the setup position on that top boat. Sniper's nest. He is going to find 2 as well. Teston goes down. And KSU have flipped this out. We're getting a lead change now heading into the third set, Mick. These teams, they won it. Are we headed to map 5? Or is this where the Eagles shut us out?
And that's the biggest question to really answer right now, and it all comes down to whether KSU can hold this down. We can see a lot of contention, but I doubt the way these two teams have been fragging, that's what we're going to see. We're going to see a one-sided affair, and it all comes down to being right here. With the break trying to come through for Georgia Southern, now being on the opposite side, they have not seen P1 from yet. Can they make the adjustments on time, and can they do them quick enough to really close things out? Trauma trying to be Mons lonesome, trying to go ahead and survive on this island by himself to make it out, but now having the backup there, you can get a double swing, you get the kill, you hold the site, you get the follow-up. Georgia Southern is spawning out and it's sitting at 235.
4 go down. Now it's time to fly. Only 14 seconds left for us to send to a map number 5. Glide bomb's gonna be called from Trauma, but here comes the break. The information gonna be feeding to the rest of them. 3 kills come through, a team kill, but Trauma drops the hammer. Only 5 seconds left for KSU to send us the distance. Testing in for the break, so it's not over just yet, Mick. You gotta look to the rotation.
And even then, Georgia Southern has to play flawless Call of Duty, and if anybody can do it, they can. They have to rotate quickly enough, but KSU is just getting too many kills right now. It all comes down to testing. Can he make this kill happen? And he does, so it's a little bit of a momentum switch. You buy yourself some more time. KSU is trying to surround yourself like a flock of owls, and they are coming through for the win, bringing us to a map 5 for that second S&D.
Big map 5, big bounce back. KSU, they wanted to prove themselves. Well, here you go, folks. We're going the distance. We're going all the way. Map 5 to close out the B stream, and this is the Call of Duty that I was looking forward to, with two squads neck and neck inside the Southeast Pool C division. You look at this map. Look at what we got. Look at the series so far, Mick. It has been a blast. And it's not over just yet. We still got another map to go through. I mean, this is a treat.
I mean, man, when I tell you what, we were talking about ice cream, we were talking about cold weather earlier, but if there's any one thing that these Georgia boys know how to do, it's bring the heat and take it just as equally. I mean, they are used to that. They are going ahead, bringing us a show, getting ourselves to a map 5, and I didn't expect any two teams besides these two to really go ahead and take us to it. Georgia Southern not really looking their liveliest right now, and especially looking at how they sat there and really didn't have the strongest search and destroy. That's where KSU started this run. This is where they won their first map, their first mode to go ahead and set themselves up for this Game 5. So now we're turning back to it. Georgia Southern, is this going to be PTSD, or is this going to say, all right, we cannot let up right now. So we're in a fever dream. Something is going on.
Oh, fever dream indeed, but this is a dream that you were looking forward to get yourself on the power rankings. Let's take a look at the stats for that game number 4. It's huge what we saw out of these two teams, and honestly, a lot of players stepping up to the board for the Owls. I mean, you look right away, you can see Trauma and Shank, 30 and 25 from your SMG player, and then Trauma turning up with the Automaton to drop 30 untraded kills. I mean, some of these numbers are just unheard of from teams. Then you look at the average damage per hill, and you look at 3 players almost at 300. Trauma did eclipse 300 damage per hill, but you look at Astay and Shank just keeping up with the consistent damage.
Yeah, you most definitely do. I mean, that damage alone, finding yourself at least the assist to go ahead and stall those players. Make sure, even if you're going ahead and just not even getting the kills, if you provide that damage, that's all it comes down to, because this is a team game at the end of the day. Your damage will add up with another teammate so you can find yourself a kill, or in hard point in a game where you're not really too worried about respawning, but you are worried about at least playing out your life. So if you go ahead and get digged up a little bit, you're going to take cover behind a rock, and how long does it take to regen that? I'd say about 3 seconds. That's 3 more you just bought for your squad, and that's the differential in the game right there, because it was about 30, or excuse me, a little bit under 20, so sitting at about 18 seconds. Not the biggest deal overall, not the biggest differential we've ever seen, but definitely a different story from what we've seen out of Georgia Southern so far.
Yes, it is, but one map to rule them all at the end of this, Mick. It's going to be a big one. Bokash is going to be what's on the menu, folks, as we set up for this map 5, as we get these players to populate the lobby. We're going to head to a break. When we come back, we are going to close out on this gallant best of 5. That is going the distance. We'll see you there. Folks, two teams, one looking to prove themselves, one looking to solidify themselves, and one map to separate them from either an upset or the solidifying need that you are going to see from the Eagles. Mick, we're heading to game number 5, search and destroy. The Eagles, are they going to clutch up, or is this where KSU proved themselves to be a power ranking team?
That's the crazy thing about it this stage. I don't even know anymore. Both teams are looking to do some really good work here, and I mean, KSU stepping things up so far, already exceeding every expectation probably set for them to this point. I mean, going up against Georgia Southern, who sat there and had themselves an outstanding season. We saw the records at the beginning of this matchup, and it was looking like a donut watch for the losses of Georgia Southern. Now losing 2 modes, now losing 2 maps, and going now to a Game 5 to go right back to the mode where it all started for KSU, at least in this matchup. Things are looking risky here. They're looking frisky, but hey, man, I'm here for every second of it because I love chaos.
And not to mention, that search and destroy went all the way to around 11. Let's take a look at those maps if we can, so that we can see exactly what we've been through for this series. And we start off in Berlin. We got a double dose of Berlin. 250 to 153 from the Eagles to walk away with that first map, and then around 11 to bounce back from the Owls. It was a tough one in Tuscan Control, with both teams finding an offensive win, but the Eagles, they took the swing map, they pushed those Owls up against the ropes, where they battled back inside Gavitu to send us to exactly where we're going up next. Bokash is the name of the game. It's the name of the map. Talk to me a little bit about it, Mick, because what are we in for?
I mean, I'm going to be real with you, Chief. I think every single time, if you ask every other team in the league, they're probably going to say A hit, A hit, A hit, A hit, A hit. I know the map starts with a B, but we love A, apparently, on Bocage, and I can't blame them. You sit there, you get yourself a pretty good setup. You're inside. Your bomb is just kind of naturally protected by all kinds of things, and The one lineup you do have is sitting there setting up in the house around it, and also having a big old penetratable wall right next to the bomb where you go ahead and plant it. So it's an easy little frag there. But problem is, looking at these two teams, I'm sure they're both respecting each other. KSU's probably a little bit scared knowing the big threat that they're facing right now, but it all comes down to whether or not they get overzealous this time around to say, look, we're doing this, baby. We're feeling good right now. That's can't be the attitude they've seen. The reason they got here in the first place was because they respected Georgia Southern. They sat there and played it pretty slow here and said, let's go ahead and just bite out this time as much as we can. Let's go ahead and create a plan. Let one player either go on a flank, get super aggressive, and find possibly a double kill off the get-go, and then we can make our move.
Map number 5, everybody. Get loud, get proud. Let's see the spirits show up from those schools. Who do you want to win? Who's going to take it all? This is all going to end right here. On the attack is going to be KSU. On defense, Georgia Southern. You can see Suzy Q and Tesson through that wall. Looking to keep the aggression up. The attacker's slow and steady out here. Player number 2, Snake, finds him. Suzy Q is going to go down. First blood's going to be drawn. I don't know if they're going to be ready for Tesson to be right beside him as they are side by side. But you still need to get that bomb through here. Basically staying on top of each other. Jumping down is going to be Snake. Tesson's going to find it. Trade from Estee. Not going to come through with the escape. The great escape from Tesson. And now with the lead, the numbers for Georgia Southern. Tesson is working them in the middle of the map. 3v1.
A massive turnaround there for Georgia Southern to go ahead and say, look, things were looking rocky, but you know what? We're right there around the mountains. Let's go ahead and take a quick hike right quick and make sure to go ahead and bring this back. And looking really good so far. Now set up for a 3-1. You see KSU having to be on that defending side. So, I mean, things a little bit problematic. I mean, going ahead, having to move to the middle of the map can be trauma. Looking for that bomb plant, looking for whatever kind of setup you can get. But instead, you get absolutely nothing. You get put 6 feet under from the likes of Georgia Southern. Finding that first round, a great start for them.
Kyle in the last kill of the game, or of the round. Talking about Kyle, I mean, I wonder if we're going to get as big of a game as we did from Berlin, folks. That was around 11, but you got to understand, Kyle was 15-7, as the names might be flipped up top for the logos as well. It is KSU on the left, Georgia Southern on the right. So you got to keep that in mind for this game 5. On the attack now, Eagles looking at the A site, fast and furious, right towards this bomb site indeed. And the Suns come through. Is anybody here to answer back? Through the door they go. Tesson slips on through, and bomb's going down. Or not.
Oh, yeah. A little bit of a shake up there from the likes of Snake up there. Able to go ahead and turn things up. Look for some kills. KSU saying, you know what? Who needs a bomb? Who needs players? We're going ahead and finding ourselves around and getting right back on the board with an answer.
I mean, that was exactly what you hope to get on a defensive round from KSU. They had a strong start for that offense, but it just fell flat on their face when Tesson worked his magic. So back to the offensive side, we swap sides once more into round number 3. The Snake so far, 3-2. He was the guy to do it on Berlin to answer back to the Eagles. He's doing the exact same thing, keeping up with the pace this time around. Bomb still in barn. Snake looking to be the player to run the route around the outside. Will the Eagles be ready for it? No, Snake.
Oh, man.
First blood again.
A great standing here. I mean, Snake is just literally exceeding all my expectations right now. And Estes as well. I mean, don't ignore the double, because that's going to go ahead and clear up a bomb site. That's going to make A wide open for the rest of these players. And it all comes down to Choppas to really go ahead and clear everything. And for what I've seen so far, he's got an automaton player, so you're going to run that again. And the problem is the bomb is inside. It is inside of a house that's very close quarters. You better make sure to ADS around every single corner if you're going to have a shot. But there it is, MB40 in hand now. You got to look for one on that bomb. That's going to be the pressure, but are you going to be ready for the entire influx of players looking to rush this bomb now?
So far, so good. 24 seconds, though. A lot on the mind of Choppas. And he has that submachine gun now picked up, but time is against him. Spot Snake. That information is huge now for KSU. You know he's not on the bomb. You just need to finesse your life. Snake baits him out. And KSU, they're going to find 2 rounds in a row to take their lead.
I love what Snake did there. He just knocked on the door right quick. He said, okay, are we defusing in here? No, sweet. All right, I'll go ahead. You do what you got to do. There's no time left anyway. So I'm going to go outside. Follow me if you want to, but you're going to go ahead and get fragged down, and we're going to see KSU finding a second, able to go ahead and turn things up and say, look, And things are looking a little bit different now. We're finding a lead once again. Georgia Southern backs up against the wall this time around saying, look, we cannot have a repeat of this. KSU is up now having that 2-point threshold. We got to go ahead and make sure to follow through, step things up, find these kill streaks, and use them a little bit earlier instead of for a time for desperation. But there it is, able to go ahead and possibly find one as Choppa's. The first blood this time around for Georgia Southern looking pretty good.
First blood there. Snake again in the grass. Bites. And even Steven, 3v3. That's with the bomb. Through Granny's. Nice shots from Este. Well aware that that attack was imminent. So bomb's going to be down. They're into Granny's, but with the player life advantage, it is going to be a tough one. Choppa's answers back, keeping it even. But look at that. The pressure from the Owls has been sublime. Just getting back into that advantageous positioning. Este is going to push the pressure on a Choppa's, leaving Kyle last alive. Has bomb recovered. And A side is open to a plant. Is he going to put it down or take these gunfights? It looks like he wants to wrap around, take these gunfights right away. Trauma's going to spot him out. Kyle looking to bring this back, but Trauma gets the job done.
Oh, this is where things get a little bit shaky. KSU already halfway through this map to close things out, sitting at a 3-1. It's only a 2-point deficit, so it's not too far away out of the grasp of Georgia Southern right now. But, I mean, just being in this scenario alone is a little bit sketchy for them. They're not really expecting this kind of performance out of KSU, and even then to double down, follow through, and do this time in, time out, repeat. And the one thing I'm seeing as a repeat from the likes of KSU is that first blood from Snake. An absolute player, an absolute unit right now, stepping up everywhere you need him.
You have been fantastic in the first blood lane. Snake again trying to work his way down. Suzy Q gets spotted. And he gets hooked. Suzy Q is out of that, and he is. Este still looking to flush him out. And the first blood, it's Este this time striking. Still KSU putting the dagger in. The trade comes through from Teston, but the A side is open now. Forward attack from the Owls.
Slow, methodical. Slow, baby. That's all you got to do. Play it slow right here. So much respect between these two teams for each other, and I'm loving every second of it. You can hear every single cricket chirp, and you can see every single eardrum of each of these players. But finally, a strike comes out from KSU, stepping up, able to sit there, making a 1v3 once again, where Kyle is at the reins of it all.
Teston was the make or break for that whole thing, and it's the poor timing against Trauma. I mean, they were on top of one another outside the map. And Este comes out big with the first kill on the inside of Grandma's. You see them double down as Teston does get red through a zigzag. That's going to be 4 rounds now for KSU. 4 unanswered rounds since Georgia Southern found that round number 1 with a huge play out of Teston. But since then, it has been quiet from them. And the Owls, they want this. They want to upset Georgia Southern right now. They want to hand them their first loss. And they are well on their way to that path.
And I think it all comes from those sweet juices of actually winning a round here on Georgia Southern. They're able to go ahead and get a taste of that, saying, look, it feels good to beat them. Let's keep doing it. They've done that time in, time out, able to go ahead and make this game into a game 5, but also losing the first blood of this round. So that's a big problem for them as you see the next one fall. Shank and S both falling pretty soon here. Snake is still alive, though, so that power play player, can you make sure to go ahead and get in that sneaky spot you find every single time? But with the bomb down, everybody setting up, and him being dead now, that makes it a heck of a lot harder.
1v4 for Trauma, and he doesn't get anything at all. Excellent now for Georgia Southern to resurge into the search and destroy. But another round on the board now cuts that advantage down to 2. Most importantly, they're stopping the momentum that was starting to roll in the way of KSU. You look at this whole position, you look back onto the defense of Georgia Southern. They opened up this map with a defensive win. Let's see if they can go back-to-back now and close this distance.
That's definitely what they got to do. I mean, they can't just back-to-back. They got to double down on their entire rounds, and they need to do it flawlessly to not give KSU the momentum to get themselves to a match point. But there you go. Kyle able to go ahead and grab that first blood, but getting exchanged out in the process. Trauma with another one as well. So looking insane for KSU. Already closing out 3 players and getting the intel of where the last one may be.
1v1. Snake gets spotted. Oh, he's twisted right now. I don't know what he was ready for, but let's see if he can regen. Player number 6, Teston. He gets out and dodge. Bomb is down inside the barn, so Snake is going to have to be the one to make this play. Teston up top. Snake on the way around. I don't know if Teston's going to be ready for him to be underneath him, but
Thanks a lot.
Completely flipping this map right now, Mick. They are side by side. Bomb gets recovered. Testin, he knows the jig is up for something. Too much time has been burned off of this clock. 36 seconds to make a play, and it looks like A-Side's where we're going. Testin, reading this properly, just waiting to react.
And also, that's all you got to do in a scenario like this. You don't know where the bomb is. You're not really trying to play things too much. And say you're getting KSU to be a little bit over antsy and say, well, now we're in their head. And even then, you don't know what's going on. But Snake at least does know where he wants to go with this bomb. And that's a big thing already. Checking every single corner, making sure to check all the marks, all the boxes. But Testin saying, look, things are taking a little bit too long over here. Now, are we going to go ahead and play on this B side or A side? But even then, Snake took way too long for that plan. And he's going to get caught red-handed putting it down when he had 30 seconds to do it prior.
Snake, man. I mean, you had so many opportunities to put that bomb down.
I'm saying.
Way too long to make a move. And that's Testin living rent-free. That is the pressure of a 1v1. Some players, they just don't know what to do. And Snake, I mean, he might be 7-6 right now, but when the pressure is on, that is when you see a true superstar shine. And Testin, he gets the job done. Cutting that lead now, 2-1. Over to the A side we go. Stun in the back. Not going to land. Choppas for first blood into Trauma. Is ST going to fly out here? He's playing very aggressive on the front door. Testin opens it up. You get the noise. And ST's going to react by dropping back and throwing a nade onto the bomb.
And even then, a pretty good exchange here for Jordan Southern, saying nothing for something. Sure, we'll go ahead and take that first blood. We'll take it with pleasure, actually, to tie up this game, possibly. We got to go ahead and continue through, though. We have players still alive. We have only 2 now still alive. But Snake now here being on the prowl to find that kill. But a very quick answer from Jordan Southern makes it now a 1v2. So you do get an exchange. You find a trade, but you're still in the advantage. You're not really too worried about it. You have a bomb down as well. Here on that A site, you just got to stick it close, stick it pretty darn hard, and make sure to play off your teammate. But Choppa's here on the outside. Oh, we're going to be clipped off. Now making it a 1v1. Kyle and S alive. 2 of these absolutely outstanding players. One is 8-5. One is 4-5. Maybe you can make that differential a little bit.
SA almost had the read. Through the door he goes, but Kyle relocates into Grandma's, and he gets the job done. Another 1v1, and it's the Eagles this time, tying up Search and Destroy.
I think that really goes ahead and kind of shows and spotlights Kennesaw when they find themselves and have a lot of players alive. They sit there, they know how to play off each other. They go ahead and find themselves getting these shoes where they can play in these scenarios to have each of their own individual spotlights with everybody still being alive. Problem is, Snake, he's usually finding that first blood and saying, all right, I did my job. I can do whatever I do. Y'all just keep distracting him, and I'll pop up another time. I'm like a celebrity appearance on a TV show. Well, when you're on a 1v1, it makes it really hard to do something like that if everything's surrounding you. And even then, same thing with S. So, I mean, I got to see it follow up here. I got to see KSU step things up because a tie game is not what they want.
Slow and steady once more from KSU. Around the outside, it's Snake looking to run a route. Player number 5, I don't know if he's spotted the Suzuki, is unaware right now. And Snake's going to strike. First blood again to KSU. Opening up that B site, but again, answering back, it's tested. It is a battle of attrition right now between these 2 players, but Shank is going to keep the pressure on. 3v2. A site looks like where Shank wants to take this bomb. 2 players for Georgia Southern. The last 2 are going to be inside Grandma's, so they will be able to react. But I love this play from Shank. I mean, you know that B site is open. Go plant it.
Oh. And even then, I mean, Shank has the bomb in hand, not Snake. So we know it's going to be planted eventually. And there it goes. On B site, not going to fake it, not going to sit there and say, I don't feel like doing it here, maybe switch out. It goes down, you go for a post plant. You got to get the setup, you got to have the players scattered about, and KSU definitely has that. With Kyle being a 1v3 scenario, he's got to find a beautiful first blood, and he finds exactly that, but he's got to follow through. Go ahead, expect the cross, isolate one more player, make it a 1v1, and expect the right 50-50 when it comes around to picking that bomb when you're defusing it. Even then, looking for a roundabout, not really taking the shortest route available, but instead the detour ends up biting him just as hard as Snake did earlier in the round, and KSU pull out another one.
Match point for the Owls. 1 round to upsetting Eagles. 1 round to punching their ticket into what could be those power rankings. You got to be sweating right now if you're Georgia Southern. You've been undefeated. And not just a series count, but map count as well. Until you went toe-to-toe with the Owls. This is where you're pushed to the distance. This is where you need to put it on a round 11. We're headed back to the A site.
And even then, I mean, to mention undefeated, they had been undefeated the entirety of the regular season last year. These two players on the Georgia Southern team that are experienced have not felt a taste of defeat in ages. And it finally comes around to him when Trauma makes the first strike there, able to find that first kill. Tessin trying to be a little bit confused there, figuring out what's going on. But, I mean, with 3 players still alive, you got to get that bomb down. You got to find that plant or find the kill to respect it. And KSU's just going to linger about.
Yeah, Shank in real good position here. Good information from Suzy Q. Doesn't even take the shot. Feeds it to Kyle. To trade this out numbers here. Suzy Q makes the move. 1v2. Snake now flipped on the head. Isn't behind. 1v1. Bomb is down. 40 seconds to make a move. Suzy Q versus Snake. One can end this. One can push it even farther. Suzy Q picks up the bomb. He's making the full wrap around to B, and they are just turning inside. Suzy Q is getting perfect timing right now. Make 27 seconds, and honestly, this is perfect for Georgia Southern.
It's handing you on a silver platter right now. If you're Suzy Q, you're saying, look, this is great. We bought the time. He sat there wrapped around. He's somewhere else on the map because I just got a plan. Otherwise, if he was still on B, I would be dead right now, and we would be losing a game against KSU. This is our one opportunity to keep this game alive, and it all comes down to whether or not you can follow through with this. Snake not able to win out the clutch in a 1v1 on the offense, but defense is a different story. You're towards the back of the map. You see the bushes. You see the wraparound. You see the kill possibly come out, but you just got to live. You got to run until you can fight, but you don't know where the shots came from. He's behind you, and Snake can close it out. KSU win out this series to shut down Georgia Southern.
It was a battle, more so a war. When you look at these two teams going up against each other, and KSU, they get the job done. They upset Georgia Southern Eagles, and they put a loss on the board for this undefeated Titan inside the CCL. I mean, it was a hard one. It was not pretty whatsoever, Mick, and it was a long, sought-out battle. Once again, I mean, they get it done, and they make it look good as well. They're putting themselves now in a really good position for their division, and they are just pushing up those KSU stocks even farther.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I'm literally in awe. I mean, going into this matchup, I'm sure everybody would have expected KSU to say, all right, look, they want to step things up. They want to find at least a map to make themselves look that much good and carry on further. To win in an entire series against a team, against 2 players during an entire last year on this Eagles COD Gold squad. They did not lose a single game during the regular season. When the pools were that much bigger, they had a lot more teams to face. And KSU went 8-9. Sure, they're 4-2, but apparently records mean nothing in this league anymore because you can still find yourself an amazing upset for KSU to look outstanding tonight.
They've made the right adjustments into the 2022 year. Now let's look at the stats for map number 5 because it was quite the series out of these two, and this last map says it all. We didn't get stats for the last player on Georgia Southern as only 3 players remained at the end of it, but just look at KSU. We talked about Snake, a player to go toe-to-toe with Georgia Southern in the search and destroys, and he does it again, 13-7. You look at the supporting cast, Trauma, Este, and Shank, 6-8 from Shank, 8-8 from Este, Trauma, 4-5. I mean, that is just quite the series from this squad. They get the job done, and they make it look good.
Yeah, and I'm going to say, I mean, just looking at even in this series alone, we got to go ahead and talk about what that does to the entire division now. I mean, this has a much bigger picture to it. This has so much more potential. We got to look at the other threats in the pool right now. They still have to go up against FSU. They still have to go up against Mox COD, who have also been looking outstanding this season so far, finding themselves a top ranking amongst the pool that they're in. FSU is now saying, wait, we didn't even look at KSU. We thought this was going to be a free game. Well, guess what, surprise, buddy? You got to sit there and put another page into your notebook and figure out what's going on with them. And I can go ahead and help you out a little bit. Look at the scoreboard you got on your feed right here, right now. Take care of Snake. Check every single one of those corners. Go ahead and break out the snake repellent because that is going to be your biggest problem. This man's going to bite time in, time out, left and right, and he's going to have venom behind those teeth as well. And it's going to seep into the rest of your bloodline for your team, and it's going to go ahead and slow you down. You can't let that happen if you're really going to sit there and look at the squad and tell me they didn't do an outstanding job tonight.
Well, let's take a look back at the series. Let's get a look at the maps that we got through that best of 5 because as we said and as we stated throughout it, Mick, it was a long one. There was a war between that 2, 4, and 5. That's where the Owls got it done. And it was a close one each time around. Just look at the scores for each map.
Oh, my God.
I mean, these two are neck and neck, Mick.
I mean, every single time, too. I mean, map 1 is where we were like, all right, Georgia Southern, great. You're doing your thing. It is what it is. But then map 2, we saw a completely different Kennesaw. They handed their controller to Big Brother. I mean, that's exactly what happened. We saw a completely different squad. We saw them already contest a pretty darn good bit when it came around to that map 1. But ever since then, they said, oh, we know what Georgia Southern does. They just get aggressive. They know how to play out their lives. They know how to win frags. And they know how to win games. But us, if we just go ahead and slow the game down, get ourselves the necessary picks, this could actually be possible for us. And they step up, and that's exactly what they do.
It's exactly what they did to close out that B stream, Mick. And upsets are what I'm here for. Upsets are what everybody loves inside CCL. And this is week number 4. This is only the beginning still for the 2022 season. And teams are looking to make the right adjustments into this year. Vanguard has been nothing but delightful for the whole thing. And to close out the B stream with a game 5 like that, all the way to round number 10. I thought we were going to round 11. I mean, it was a 1v1 to close it out. And Susie Q just got to turn around sometimes. Just got to turn around. When Snake is always behind you, you just got to know eventually that is the case, Mick. But this is the end of the road for the B stream, folks. Make sure you tune in to the CCL next week for week number 5 over in the College COD Alpha stream and the Bravo stream. Make sure to follow us on Twitter as well, Twitch at College COD. And you don't want to miss out on all the action for this season, as I think I've alluded to. It is just started, folks. I hope you all have a great night. We'll see you next week with some more College COD.
Most definitely will.